Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are here for UFC 310 Bets and Banter, and it is going down in Las Vegas, Nevada. Last pay-per-view event of the year for the UFC, and they're going out with a bang, guys, from the bottom of the card all the way to the top. Pretty fun fights, a lot of exciting matchups. Also, a lot of big odds, a lot of big favorites. That means a lot of big underdogs as well. Hopefully, we can sniff one out if there is one available. And we've got one of the best underdog bettors on the scene right now. My guy, Cody MMA, coming fresh off of a Gabriela Fernandez call, plus 800, one of the biggest underdogs in the UFC's long history. So welcome to the show, Cody MMA. How are you, my brother?
Hey, that was a fun cash. I'm doing good, man. I'm hyped for this card, man. I've been cranking out a ton of content for this card, but it honestly hasn't gotten old because I really am hyped for that. It's a stacked card, man, top to bottom. There's really not a single fight on this card that I'm not excited for, to be honest. Even the big favorites, it's like there's some sort of at least a narrative or something that's makes me want to watch it. So, yeah, I'm hyped for this one, man. What would you rate this one 1 to 10?
You know, I always think like a really strong main event is needed to push something over the top to like a
Yeah.
9 or a 10. I think this is a good main event. It's not going to knock your hair off. So for me, man, I'm looking at like a 7.5, 8 out of 10. I think it's a very solid card, dude.
Yeah, no, that's fair. There's not like a huge main event or like a crazy knock your socks off fight, but there's like a ton of like 8.5, 9 out of 10 fights on the card. So, it's a
Exactly. We get a
consistent.
nice average.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it, man. Well, I don't know how familiar you are with the format, but what we normally do here, my man, we start at the bottom, we work our way on up to the top from there. If we don't have strong thoughts on a fight, we'll let people know that, but we'll also just try and touch on everything, man. We'll give you a look, how we feel about it. If we think there's any betting value on the board, we'll talk about that too. And we will be getting some contributions, of course, from the sharpest chat in the game as we go along. No doubt about that. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it in earnest with the first fight of the night. And we will share our screen over here on Tapology so you have an idea of who we're talking about. And the first fight of the night, Kennedy Nzechukwu, however you want to say it. He's taking on Łukasz Brzeski. And why don't we start it off with our guy, Cody MMA? How do you feel about this one, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I like Kennedy. I mean, he has dropped the ball as a huge favorite before, but I really do feel like he should be. It seems like there's been some buyback on Brzeski. The lines came down a little bit. He's like minus 500 now, Kennedy. I just feel like, man, there's not a whole lot to love watching Brzeski's fights. I mean, uh, kind of just throwing hands, but it's not like he has like crazy power. He's not really a heavyweight. I mean, yeah, he's 6'4", but I don't know. He kind of just like put fat on to get up to heavyweight. It's weird because he's tall enough, but he really just, I don't know. He's kind of soft belly up to heavyweight. Like when he used to be jacked, but then he popped, and since then, I don't know if this guy's even like all the way in. And then he's just not that skilled. Like I've actually always thought Kennedy had a pretty high upside. He's only 32 years old at light heavy. This dude's got a huge frame. He's big. He can grapple. Decent striking. It seems like it's gotten a lot better. I mean, yeah, he looked great against Chris Barnett, but that is a heavy bag. I love Chris Barnett as much as everybody else, but kind of easy to look good against. And he hurt himself, obviously, but I do think Kennedy is getting better. I think he's still a baby for this division, so he's got room to grow, honestly. And I think he should win here, man. I mean, yes, he dropped the ball against OSP at a similar number, but I think he wins this fight. Honestly, in my head, like 9 times out of 10. So, I mean, I actually bet him by sub plus 800. That's my bet on this fight. I think if he wants to make this fight easy, take this dude down and submit him. So I don't know. What do you think, man?
You know what? I definitely understand the angle on the sub. I'm seeing as high as plus 950 on the board. Seems like an outlier price. Something I definitely don't hate. When you look at this kind of matchup, Kennedy just has a frame that really lends itself to submissions, right? He doesn't go for them all the time. When he went for one against Devin Clark, he was able to secure it there. Obviously, Devin Clark, classic panic shooter, likes to go for, a takedown attempt right after he gets hurt. And I think that for Łukasz Brzeski, he's definitely more conventional of a fighter. He's going to try and keep the fight upright, throw out his volume. I think his best chance to win, frankly, is to get to the decision, right? We've kind of seen Kennedy and Nzechukwu kind of fight a little bit suboptimally at times. I do wonder what his heavyweight cardio will look like. It's a little bit different sometimes, carrying around 20 to 30 extra pounds in the octagon when you're throwing, especially if you go for the finish. So I think those are a couple of the question marks that we have on Nzechukwu, but you already touched on it in terms of the body composition. There's a massive difference between these two guys. Kennedy looks more athletic in terms of his body composition. There's a lot more give. If you were to poke him in the stomach, there's a lot more give to Lukas Brzeski. He's got a very weird, awkward build. It does look to me like he's experimented with supplementation, however you want to interpret that, like throughout the course of his career. I will go back and watch the face-off video, which I haven't seen for these two guys, to see if he looks like he found the Garden of Life supplements. But in terms of how I would look at this fight, I do think that the sub decent angle on Kennedy, if he's to justify this price, he's probably got to get it done inside the distance. And I think for Brzeski, if you like that side, don't be cute, take the money line. It's a big price. He could knock him out. We've seen Kennedy just not have a great chin. If you're going to throw 100 plus significant strikes at heavyweight, you might put somebody down, but I don't think of Brzeski as a very powerful guy. Against Walter Walker, I did bet him in that spot at a plus 210 type price. So I think that was the kind of matchup he could win. UFC debutant, guy who's not really supposed to be there. I just don't really think Kennedy fits the bill for that. He's gotten some of those losses out of his system. So would I advocate laying the huge price with him? No. But would I, understand why he's priced prohibitively in this kind of matchup? Yeah, I get it. I think I see what the UFC is doing here. So
yeah.
Best of luck to those two gentlemen, but the sub prop small and leave it alone is what I would say.
Exactly. I didn't want to have a ton of ownership on the guy. So let's just see if he's smart and makes us taking a fight on heavyweight short notice. This guy can't grapple. Let's see if you're smart enough. It's an IQ test, really. Plus 800 for an IQ test. Take these two down. Take the path of least resistance. But I will say, like you said, I like to chase these big underdogs all the time, and especially heavyweight. Typically this is I'm all over a spot like this, like unranked heavyweights, and you got a minus 500. But I really honestly think it's justified, bro. I think Kennedy's going to smoke him. But we'll see. Maybe not, but definitely wouldn't be parlaying minus 500. I like picking an angle, and mine's the sub. But we can move on to this next big favorite. Speaking of which.
Hell yeah, man. We go from one big favorite to a way bigger favorite. We got Chase the Dream Hooper going against OG Clay Guida. Guida's been around the block, man. He's done it all. Fought a lot of the toughest guys. But when it comes down to it, man, 42 years old, going on 43 years of age, it's pretty old for fighting, man. And it's hard to keep up with these young guys. And we saw the pace difference, the speed difference in transitions between these two guys when they grappled. And it's all different when you're fighting, right? But I just have seen this guy, Chase Hooper, way ahead of guys that are supposed to be wrestlers and grapplers that are age contemporaries, young guys. And he's just beating them all to positions, knows where he's supposed to be. That loss to Steve Garcia looked terrible at the time. Oh my God, Chase Hooper, massive favorite, gets lit up by Steve Garcia. What a bum. Now Steve Garcia is a favorite in his fights, and he's knocking dudes dead every time out. So it's just like, maybe Steve was just better than we all thought, and we didn't give him any credit there. Chase, a young kid, cutting a lot of weight to 145, and now he's a man, right? And when you get to 25 years of age, that's when physical development, is typically peaking out for males, right? So now we've got a man strength Chase Hooper, 25 years of age. He's already got UFC experience under his belt. I don't expect him to panic under the bright lights or something like this. So for me, I just think we're getting a really primed up Chase Hooper against a guy in Clay Guida who used to be one of these top lightweights who has been, on the downtrend. And there was a fight with Leonardo Santos that I think people forget. Leonardo Santos did everything but stop Clay Guida, right? Like he hit him with every big shot, every big strike, landed anything he wanted to, and gassed himself completely because he is also, approaching 40 and has been around the game a long time. And it's hard to sustain that kind of pace. He threw like 63 unanswered strikes and then had a cardiac arrest and just gave up. But Chase Hooper, if you go back and watch, I know a lot of people have seen his UFC run. Go back and watch his like his run basically through the regional scene. He beat the shit out of guys, and people don't know. Like, this guy wraps wrists and punches you in the head, and when he's on top, he beat Slava Borshev within an inch of his life. The knockdown, say whatever you want. He just got on top of him, starts beating down on him. That's what he does, man. He's just a very effective top player. So for me, I think that if he gets put on bottom, he's probably going to sweep to the top position. And if he sweeps to the top position, I think he's going to beat the shit out of Clay and either submit him or, force the referee to intervene. So I worry about mercy. I worry about him respecting the legend. But aside from that, skill for skill, where they're at right now, because MMA is all about timing, right? Chase Hooper at 25 years of age right now with this amount of UFC experience under his belt, I think he's going to beat the shit out of Clay Guida. I don't think it's going to be close. I think the line is, maybe a little bit wide, but ultimately justified as having Chase a big favorite. I think he should be a big favorite here. What about you, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you took most of the words out of my mouth, man. I mean, it's just another justified favorite. And again, like, as we talked about, I love looking for like, oh, this is a cage fight at the end of the day. I never really, it's pretty much never. You'll hear me say like, yeah, 12-1 seems about right. Like, typically it's like, I'll just take a shot. I mean, I won't say typically, but pretty often, man. When it's this wide, I'm just like, dude, it's a cage fight. This is banana peel pricing, but I don't know. I really struggle to see a path. I mean, they just had a grappling match. It didn't take long for Chase to find the submission, and Clay took him down. So maybe Clay is like, oh, well, I saw what the grappling felt like. Maybe I'll try to strike with him. Dude, I think Chase's striking's gotten a lot better. If he does that, it might be a bad night for Chase. Like, it might be even more painful night, I should say, for Guida, because I think Chase might put a beating on him on the feet, honestly. I loved Clay as much as the next guy. I have memories of watching this dude fight like 15 years ago. But in the UFC, hair all in his face, I just could never get my head around, like, how do you fight like that? But now he kind of tames it. But he's been like, what, doing the braids or cornrows or something the past couple times? What did he do?
I think he even cut a lot of it off, man. I think he went down to like almost like that flat top type look for a little bit. I'd have to fact check me on that, but I think he did like get like a really close haircut by his standards.
Yeah, he used to just have it. He couldn't see a thing, bro. He was fighting off instinct, but yeah, no, man. I mean, you touched on it. I think Chase has him covered, man. The UFC knows what they're doing. They're trying to build him. They're like, all right, man, if you want to stay and get these paydays, I'm sure he's making a pretty solid chunk of change. They're like, we ain't going to give you easy matchups, and you're going to build our future stars. So, I think Chase sub, but I wouldn't get cute, man. I don't know, because it would not shock me if Clay does decide to strike for long periods of time, or if he's avoiding the submissions and Chase is just have him mounted, he might just say, all right, well, I tried to get you out of here unharmed, but now I got to leave some of those brutal. I mean, I had the Chase by KO over Borshev, and that one hurt. So maybe he gets it this fight. But yeah, I think inside the distance, man, he's probably going to smoke Clay. Hate to say it, but.
Yeah, man. I had Chase Hooper via KO TKO against the late Felipe Colares. Rest in peace, Felipe Colares. But that, if you guys remember that, like, again, Felipe Colares a black belt, right? He's not an easy guy to submit. So Chase will just realize at a certain point, okay, I didn't get the submission, then it's time to go back to punching him in the face. And that's kind of what I like about his game. Guys that don't go out there to fight have a really hard time implementing their grappling. So I think that, when you see a grappler that knows how to mix the martial arts, that's when they can be really effective. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing from Chase the Dream Hooper. Can he do it again for the kids? It's only plus 750 on the KO this time around, but I will just point back to that book, Fightnomics. We talked about it here a million times. Over the age of 40, fighters much more likely to get knocked out than fighters, under that age. So just something to keep in the back of our mind when, Clay Guida, only 2 losses by knockout, but they were both an accumulation of damage, right, in round 3. And I do think if he's out there for a long time with Chase Hooper and he's not having the success he wants in the top position, I think it means Chase is doing some damage to him. So keep that in the back of our heads. Next up, guys, we got a fun one here. Two aging veterans, Michael Chiesa, the Maverick, taking on Max Payne Griffin. About to pick 'em price here. Cody, how do you feel about this one, my man? Grappler or striker in this matchup?
Dude, honestly, out of like you said at the beginning of this, man, if I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on this specific one. Hey, what's up, Dar? I appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you tuning in too. This is Liam. It doesn't lie when he says this is a sharp chat, man. Every time I see Liam stream on here on the live chat, there's always a bunch of sharp minds in the chat putting some good thoughts on the fight. So appreciate y'all tuning in, man. This is always a fun one. I always love this long bets and banter with. It's always like right before the fights, I got like nothing going on. I'm like, oh shit, Liam's live. But yeah, so pleasure to be on here, man. And this fight though, I think it's the hardest one on the entire card, bro. Like this is a coin toss for me. Early in the week, I thought I would be on Max, and I would have thought if this line got flipped like this, maybe I would have been considering a bet on Max. But dude, the later in the week it's gotten, I'm like, the problem with Max is he just doesn't separate. So the Chiesa would be the one that I think, like, if there's a fighter who comes out looking minus 300, it's going to be Chiesa. That's probably not unless, well, then again, Max Griffin does drop everybody in the first round. So I guess there's probably going to be a moment in the first, unless Chiesa gets an early takedown, or Max fucking drops him and then just doesn't even try to finish him. Just says, screw it. Let's continue fighting. And then it goes to split. Max's win is probably a split decision, whereas Chiesa could get a rear naked choke. He could win 2-3 rounds dominantly from the back. So I don't know, man. I'm torn on this fight. I don't have a great take. My gun to my head, the pick's Max Griffin. But I just think he's the slicker striker, and he's typically, he's never been submitted, typically pretty tough to take down. Like he can be taken down, but it's not like super easy to get him down and control him. He won a round off Michael Morales, looked pretty solid there. He's a serviceable guy, but he is 39. He's actually the older of the two. I don't know, man. I mean, Case is also probably going to be the bigger he is the bigger guy. He's probably also going to be the stronger guy with the better wrestling. Tough to bet against a guy with good submissions, strength advantage, size advantage, and has had the higher ceiling of the two so far. Like, Chiesa, yeah, he's got some some tough losses, but like, who's he losing to? You know what I mean? Like, these are killers. So I don't know. I'm torn on this fight, bro. Hopefully you can give the people a more confident take, because I got nothing on this one, man, to be honest.
Well, I'll just lead out with a number that surprises me. The fight not to go the distance is plus 133, and that doesn't really make sense to me, given the dynamic here. Like, number one, Michael Chiesa doesn't like getting hit, period. This never has. That's why he fights the way he fights, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's like inherent to his game. He's clearly just a guy who does not like being in firefights. And then on the other side of things, it's like Max Griffin, incredible knockdown rate, goes out there, hurts everybody, very infrequently getting hurt himself, but he tires out. If I had to make a criticism of him, I bet him against Neil Magny, had zero business losing that fight. Complete fall off of cardio. At the end of that fight, he's getting power slammed on his head like it was a WWE match. And I was like, what is happening, Max Griffin, after dropping him so badly in the first round? And I think that for me, that's the source of frustration with Max, is I don't always see the right finishing instincts. But like, when you have these kind of guys, do you need great finishing instincts to put away Michael Chiesa? Not necessarily. Like, if you go out there and hurt him real bad, like I'm not sure that at this stage of his career, he's going to give you as much resistance. On the other side of things, like, if he's having a fight where he looks like a favorite here, is he not submitting this guy? Because I do think Max Griffin's given his back to worse fighters that are not as potent from the back, and that could be a real problem against this guy. At 39 years of age, doesn't get much easier to work your way back up to your feet and whatever. And especially if fatigue is a factor, I think Michael Chiesa, if he's dragging him to the ground over and over, getting takedowns, I think he'll tire him out and eventually finish him. So for me to see plus money on that in a fight like this is a little bit surprising. Obviously Max doesn't always find those finishes, but he's hurting everybody. And I think this is the kind of opponent that would check out if he gets hurt. So it seems like both guys clear path to finish. That's what I always like in a under or a fight not to go. And we're not talking about, flyweights here either, right? Like, it's not like these guys are out there, swinging and can't hurt each other. Like, Max Griffin can 100% hurt him. This is a 170-pound fight. I don't think Chiesa is going to hurt him, but again, fighters over the age of 38 have a history of getting knocked out at a much more alarming rate, and fatigue could be a factor. So for me, I just think that there's a couple different ways I could see this fight ending inside the distance.
Max
Shout
drops
out to
everything.
Quinn.
He's
Yeah,
due.
that's what I'm saying, man. It's
He's
like
due to
8-1 to
KO
the knockdown in the UFC.
He is due to
Chiesa had a
KO
bad
somebody.
back a few years ago. I didn't even remember that, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, no, he
Never
does.
forget, Colby ducked him. Colby ducked him. Michael Chiesa called him out, and Colby ducked him. Never forget.
Hey, Chiesa's not he was a bad matchup for a lot of people, man. People didn't really want to fight him.
Hell yeah, dude. Everybody was a grappler at 170. They were like, yeah, I think I'm good on that. After they saw him just knocking out Neil Magny for 5 rounds. And I cashed that at plus 100, by the way. Similar price to what we're dealing with this weekend. Common opponent that beat Max Griffin, by the way. But styles make fights. We'll find out. Speaking of styles making fights, man, what do we got here? We got a wrestler. We got a striker. And we got a young kid who's on the come up. Everybody can see the talent, right? I bet him plus 175 when he came in against Salgasu Magulov. I saw the talent then. But then I thought people got ahead of themselves. He kept winning fights, right? He would lose the first round. He'd get hurt, but he'd find a way to keep rallying and winning. And then the Charles Johnson fight. He comes out. He actually started hot in that one. It's one of the only first rounds he's won in the UFC. And then he comes out in round 3, and Charles Johnson, a guy not known for his power, puts him down bad, hurt him in that fight. Obviously, Van looked like he was trying to sit back up, but he was out of it, man. And then you look at, the Chairez fight. I bet Chairez there. Chairez hurt him multiple times. Van showed his toughness once again, his doggedness, but the chin is becoming a little bit of a liability, fighting all the time, putting it on the line all the time. 23, still not done with his physical development, 4 years deep in an MMA career, fighting every other weekend against the best guys. I mean, he's doing a lot, but he's putting himself at risk, man. And Cody Durden on the other side, much more experienced fighter. How do you feel about this matchup, my man? I think you're liking the underdog here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I like Durden, man. And this is like the scary, it went from like one of my most confident ones. Why I'm still confident, but the only thing that scares me is the fact that it seems like he is the public dog. And I hate that. I never like being on the public dog. It's just jinxed. But I don't know. I just think maybe it's for a reason, man. Like, I like Van. I'm a big fan. No pun intended. Dude's got a slick style, super good, super young. Tons of room to grow, but you touched on it, and I've talked a lot about it this week. One, yes, like the chat was touching on it, he is really small. Like, this guy would probably be fighting at 115 if that division existed. Meanwhile, Durden has fights at bantamweight. He's a big dude for the division, and we saw that at the weigh-in too. He does have a size advantage for sure. Also, man, like, I think the problem is, because Van hasn't been fighting for that long, like, they're trying to just like, okay, let's immediately get him into the UFC and then we're straight for the belt. It's like, slow your roll, bro. He's got 16 fights since 2021. That's so excessive. At that age, like, I have a younger dude in my gym who's been training for like 5 years, and he's 20, and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get to the, actually he's 19. I want to go to the UFC and I'm going to take these fights. I was like, dude, slow down. There's no point. And are you going to be the one guy who's in the UFC from 20 to 35? If not, then what's the rush? Because you'll be even better at like 32, 33 than you're going to be at like 23. That's just a fact. An extra 10 years of jiu-jitsu, you'll be better. So why not make your career in the UFC 25 to 33 or something if you're lucky? Instead, or if you're on the crazy spectrum, 25 to 35 or something, if you're just that guy. You know what I mean? But like, when these guys come into the UFC, guys or girls, at like 20 years old, it typically doesn't work out, man. Typically, it's not that they're in the UFC for 15 years. They just cash out early. You're in there at 20, you're out at 25. And if you're going to come to the UFC early and the UFC like the guy, slow down. What's the rush? But he's been hurt. Not only did he get knocked out recently, but he's been hurt in 3 of his last 4 fights. Like, almost finished. Knocked down in the what was that? 3 fights ago. He got knocked down, hurt. What was that? The Borjas fight. He got hurt in that fight. He got knocked out in the Charles Johnson fight, and he almost got finished in the Charas fight in that first round. He's just taking a lot of damage, and he has 16 fights in 3 years. He should be fighting right now. If I was his manager, I'd say he wouldn't be in this fight. He'd be taking 6 to 9 months to just do jiu-jitsu, obviously still strike, but limited hard sparring, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, just resting your brain, resting your just improving the skill set. You're 23. There is no rush. But where they're at today, I think Durden's a better fighter. I think he could submit him. He could take him down and wrestle him for 2 rounds. Maybe he slows down late, but you're going to get in the UFC and get in the habit of losing the first round every time. That's not plus EV, man. Not in the UFC. So you don't want to keep rolling the dice saying that I'm going to give away the first round and just win 2 and 3. That might work against Kevin Borjas, but it's not working against the Cody Durdens in the division. And even if he gets it done on Saturday, man, the path he's on, it's not going to end well, man. Mark my words. Unfortunately, knock on wood, because I like the guy, but he's too active. He's fighting. Now he's not. This ain't Kevin Borjas, and even him you struggled with. I like Van, but he's on a collision course, man, and I'm going to go with the guy I think should be the favorite. I think Durden might knock him out. And I do got to say really quick, pendulum sweep. You're in an arm bar. You keep the leg hooked. You keep the leg that's over the head, like a pendulum, you're going to swing it around their body and use the momentum to take you to mount. That's a pendulum sweep. Tip of the day. Take it away, Liam.
I absolutely love it. Listen, I think both these guys are live to win by all methods. But if that's the case, then why is one guy plus 130? I think that Van, he's aggressive with the submissions. Do I think he's as talented as Durden? No. But have we seen Durden get hurt, club and sub before? Yes, we have. So in terms of could I see Van having different methods of success? Absolutely. Could I see him taking over in round 2 and 3? I suppose. But again, it's just for me, you kind of need to see him do it against a grappler of this quality. And that would be something new. The last time he was tested on the mat, he didn't have all the answers. Against the Felipe Bunes of the division, he's able to do that. This is a different level. So let's see how he does in this step up. Let's see how Cody Durden responds to, a little bit of adversity. He went out there and had a great fight, a great performance that didn't go his way. Ultimately, that's something you could build on as an athlete. So at 33 years of age, it's time to go right now. He doesn't really have time to mess around. And for Josh Van, in my humble opinion, he's in a position at an age right now, he could easily be rebuilt. Like you said, Cody, he could take 9 months off from this fight, come back, and he's a refreshed guy with a new perspective, approaching 24, 25 years of age, that finishing of his physical development, and he'll be ready for prime time. But, right now, Cody Durden is in a championship camp preparing with Pantoja, and let's see how he's able to perform, given his depth of experience relative to Van. I think that's going to be his ultimate hallmark here. Oh, speaking of experience, man, these guys, we've had too much experience breaking down this effing fight. These guys are probably sick of each other's namesake by now. The way I see this one is pretty straightforward. So I'll go quick on this. I think Weidman has the grappling upside, but I don't think it's easy money that he's going to go out grapple him. The one thing about Anders you could say is he went to school on the grappling since he got submitted by Muniz, never submitted before that. It's an embarrassing loss for him, and he got taken down twice, I believe, in that fight, and he hasn't been taken down since in the UFC. He's been doing grappling matches outside of, UFC competition, trying to improve that aspect of his game. I think that showed, it's paid dividends in his performances, but ultimately the problem is, can he get better than Chris Weidman, in 6, 8, 9 months, 10 months, 12 months of active, real serious preparation? No. Chris is just a better natural grappler. He's been wrestling his whole life. Hofstra University. Yo, shout out to Jimmy the Drunk, says out here in Vegas for 310. Give me Ian Gary via decision. Thank you for the dono, my brother. And I'm rooting for that as well. Up the Irish, of course. We love Shavkat, but we also love a nice Ian Gary upset to remind people what time it is. Ireland, stand up. We still got somebody, out there trying to push for that title balance. But in any case, back to this fight. I think Eric Anders is live to win this fight by knockout. I just leave it there. I think you see Chris Weidman, his chin was a liability years ago. He can go out there and pitch 2 rounds of a perfect performance, get hit one time on the chin in the 3rd round, the fight's over shortly thereafter. That's the problem for Chris. But who's got better skills? The former UFC champion, Chris Weidman. So I think that close fight, competitive fight. At plus money, I thought Weidman was probably the side last booking. I hate rebooked fights. They now have all the information. They've rebooked it with Weidman as a pick'em price here. And I do think you're getting, kind of a pick'em type spot. Both these guys are old. The better fighter is Weidman, but the chinnier fighter is Weidman. Despite the fact Anders got chinned a little bit in his last fight, he woke back up and kept fighting. And he also has a pretty good penchant for, doing damage, right, in his fights. And I think that for Chris, he hasn't always been known for being a prolific power puncher or something like that. Most of his best work is done on the ground. So, if he's able to ground Anders, hats off to him. But I think it's going to take like a pretty special effort to get him down. And I think what we saw from Chris in his last fight was a commitment to fighting on the feet, right? He was willing to fight with Bruno Silva mostly on the feet for the duration of that contest, and he just outvolumed him. So could be a tepid decision here. How do you feel about this one, Cody?
Yeah, no, I do feel like I've probably spent like 3 hours total amongst all the content over this booking and the last breaking down this fight. But yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with my pick that it's been from the beginning. There's been a couple changes, like no more Madison Square, which would have been, obviously we're not capping fights based off that. But when in a close fight, a closely line fight, and it was, I bet him the first time at plus 130. Now, like you touched on, the line's not there. So I don't have a bet on this. I have the over, or I don't have the bet on the money line. That is, I have the goes the decision in a parlay. I really don't parlay often, but that's a running joke now because I just started parlaying more. So now all the people on my channel are like, they mess with me like, you always say you never parlay, because like the past like couple months I've slowly been like making a couple parlays, but I really don't parlay often. It'll be like 1 or 2 maybe on a card tops. A lot of cards, none, but I do have a couple parlays on this card, and I like the over in this. I think Chris Weidman wins. I think the weight difference, if anything, probably is a benefit for him at his age, not having to cut twice, and then also probably maybe doesn't have as much muscle as Eric Anders, but has the bigger frame naturally. I think he's the naturally bigger guy, has a wrestling advantage here. So I like Chris. I think he could also, the wrestling probably evens out. Like he's got the better wrestling, but Eric Anders is a big, strong guy, athletic. So they probably just strike. And I just think Weidman got better kicks. Eric Anders doesn't really check kicks. He doesn't have to worry about that. He also doesn't really throw kicks. So I think Weidman could just like outstrike him at range, maybe win a couple wrestling exchanges to edge a couple rounds. Give me Chris Weidman in a close decision. But, this behind the Max Griffin fight, this is my next least confident fight. So, no money on it besides the over. I'll take Chris, though.
You know something? I kind of have this weird feeling that Anders' undoing will be his like inability to stop himself from wrestling. Like the guy's just natural instinct is like 1, 2, grab a hold of it. Like he did it against Jun Young Park a million times after almost knocking him out several times. Like he would just hit him hard on the feet, then force himself into hard wrestling exchanges that ultimately gassed him out and didn't accomplish very much. So I think that is the worry here for Anders is like, this isn't, Jun Young Park. If you do that against Chris Weidman, he's going to snap you down, spin behind you, and probably put you through the spin cycle. So I think that he's got to be really disciplined in his approach. And I don't know if I could expect that from him. 195-pound catch weight, another variable that I don't want to have to think about. Pass for me.
Yeah, exactly. I hate catch weights. It just makes everything. And I hate another thing I hate is weight misses, getting right into this other fight that I'm biased on, but still.
Go ahead, man. Lead off. You got this.
Nah, I won't go on and on about the weight stuff, but it does bother me. 4 pounds is, and people were literally as we speak, I'm seeing tweets roll in like telling me like I'm exaggerating on like saying it's cheating and stuff. Look, dude, like plain and simple. I've also had teammates that have pulled this fast one, and we didn't agree with it. Look, I've seen both sides of this. If you know the game, you know what Brian Battle did. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying his team's a bad guy. There's only one reason you miss weight by 4. If you miss weight by 4 pounds, you knew you were not making weight. So out of courtesy, if you're just trying to be respectful and be a martial artist, you would contact the other side and say, hey, we're not going to make weight, man. So I don't know about how much, but we're going to miss weight. So let's figure something out so you can at least get the opponent to stop cutting weight. If you don't do that and you miss weight by 4 pounds, you do not have the ability to say, oh, whoopsie daisies. Like, that's not how it works. I've cut weight. I've been around 50 plus weight cuts with teammates. You know if you're going to miss weight by 4 pounds. So, what are you looking at right now?
I just brought up the stats as well. So we have like another thing to look at as we discuss.
Okay.
But don't worry, don't sweat it, G.
No, yeah. But yeah, no. So, I hate the 4 pound miss, and it does, because I have Randy Brown bet at plus 195. First of all, spoiler alert. I was going to double down on a decision only bet, Randy Brown plus 180. It's on DraftKings, I believe, right now. But now I'm like, now maybe he can push that extra to survive. Maybe if he gets clipped now, the brain fluid isn't dehydrated and he can survive. Like, that's the things people don't like. If you're just like, oh, it's only 4 pounds. That's not that much weight. People only think about it like, oh, more strength to take a guy down. It's not just that. It's you're not as dehydrated. You might have a little bit extra gas in the tank because you didn't have to push yourself. Dude, I know what it's like to cut too much weight. And I was ready to, I'm not going to lie. I considered forfeiting a grappling match, a finals, because I was just too gassed. I went out there, just dragged ass and got whooped and fucking got my ass whooped because I was done because I had to cut an extra 10 pounds, like on like a week notice. And I was already I probably cut like 17 pounds, which for me at the time was a lot. And I only did it because I had a teammate there and we were going to do the whole, we'll rock, paper, scissors, we go to the finals. I was like, fuck that. I'm going to just go to the lower weight class because he was bigger than me. So ended up being a nightmare. I was throwing up between matches. Dude, cutting weight is not, it's nothing. And people are like, it's only 4 pounds. Dude, that's a big difference. Those last couple pounds, bro, believe me, if you would have told me, it's only 4 pounds, I'd have been like, bet. That last 4 pounds, I'm like, dude, seriously, just fucking kill me. Like, I'd rather be doing anything. I'd rather walk on hot lava than be in this sauna right now. So anyways, I can go on and on. I feel like I spent too much time on the weight part, but I'm fired up. That's my boy. I'm biased too. Randy's my boy. But also, I just think Brian doesn't move his head. He's a stationary target. He's a heavy bag. Randy's, he's not Kevin Jussier, bro. He's going to move. He's got quick feet, quick hands. He's going to have a speed advantage. Brian Battle, maybe he can get a couple takedowns, but, Randy also does a lot of jiu-jitsu with the Danaher squad, with a bunch of killers. Nicky Rod, Gordon, Danner, he's had a ton of time with all these guys. Not to mention, like, his camp alone, got a bunch of killers in there. And he trained a bunch with the Philly guys over there at Henzo Gracie. So, I mean, this dude's getting the work in with the grappling as well. I don't think Brian Battle is going to be able to just control him for 2 rounds. The weight miss does scare me, bro. I hate fading dudes when they miss weight by more than 3-4 pounds, bro. It's such plus EV to miss weight by that much, bro. It's like if it would have been like a pound, like when he first got up there acting like he was dying and he was doing the whole Grammy nominated, looking to win a fucking global whatever the award is called. I don't pay attention to that, but he was
Golden Globe. I got you, G.
He was like, I'm really sick. And then at the face-off, he's dancing. He did the little pat my belly. He was in Randy's face. Like, bro was fine. He did not look drained. I looked more drained when I cut 17 than his fat ass looked at 170. Bro, get in the sauna with your fucking... Anyways, take it away, Liam. I'm fucking annoyed.
No, I get it, man. I always say there's one thing that I just don't really like and put up with and tolerate. It's missing weight. It's just not professional. It's not the wrestler way. In terms of like my whole life of wrestling and competitions and whatever, I've missed weight one time, and it was for a JV weigh-in. So that'll give you some perspective on how long ago it was. It wasn't a good feeling to miss weight then, and it's not something I wanted to do again, right? It's not a good feeling to cut weight. I will say that, and I don't, believe in heavy weight cuts for these fighters. It's dangerous for everybody's health, but ultimately that's the business, right? And if you say I'm going to be there on the weight on the time, and your opponent agrees to it, that's just what you got to do, right? And I'm a Brian Battle fan, but we just call it the way we see it. I would be wearing my Brian Battle t-shirt if he made weight today, but he didn't make weight. So we got the Beat the Streets shirt on. Okay. And I will say, I saw Randy showing face at a Beat the Streets clinic for the UFC, when they were in New York City here. So shout out to Beat the Streets. Shout out to UFC for working with Beat the Streets. Great organization, great people. Got Beat the Streets Cleveland on, but Beat the Streets everywhere. It was a 4-pound miss for Brian Battle. He technically goes down, Jimmy. Thank you, by the way, for the dono, brother. You're too kind. But he missed weight by 4 pounds. He's technically the only guy to miss weight on the card. Anthony Smith, if you guys were paying attention during the live broadcast, he missed weight, but he did come back for that second weigh-in, make weight. He did not have as much to lose, obviously, as Brian Battle. But this is his second time missing weight at 170 pounds. And he knocked out Gabe Green in the first round. People forget, right? If you do good things after you miss weight, people forget, man, how soon they forget. But it is a source of frustration. And to miss weight twice is really frustrating. So we need to see either wholesale changes from Brian in terms of the nutritionist who he's working with. It seems like he's got a good relationship with those guys, but ultimately the measure of success in a weight cut is, did I make weight, right? It's not, how did I feel? And was the food delicious? It's like, did I make the weight that I said I was going to make on the date that I said I would make it? And if I didn't, I either need to move weight classes or I need to get a better team, a better process, better understanding of my body, whatever it takes. So really frustrating on that end of things. And to your point, there's give and take with weight cuts. The thing that a bad weight cut could do is it could make you more tired, right? Like more prone to getting fatigued. It could also make you a little bit more susceptible to damage, right? How many times have we seen guys cut a lot of weight and they look big and muscly and all these things, but then ultimately they get touched on the chin. They can't take the shots because they don't have water in their brain and these kind of problems. So I think for Brian, what stands out is his flaw, his major weakness, 43% striking defense to significant strikes. So it's not going to cut it eventually, right? And so some of that you attribute to, a willingness to take risks against lower level opponents, but, he's got a pretty risk-laden style. And if you look back, it took Tresean Gore landing a really serious shot in the first, couple of exchanges to get Brian to fight a lot more defensively sound, skirt around the outside on his bicycle a little bit and use distance in order to win that fight. So against Randy here, I think Brian is just like a guy that I like his mental attributes for fighting as much as almost anybody. In terms of what I see from the guy when the cage door closes, he doesn't look like a guy who's ever looking for a way out. He doesn't look like a guy who wants to quit. He looks like a guy who's about the ruckus from start to finish and trying to kill somebody in there. And I like those kind of guys. But I also think that the weight miss combined with the price, combined with the step up in competition, it's enough for me to just say, like, this is becoming a tougher fight than I was hoping for Brian. So do I think he's still qualified to win it, capable of winning it? Yes. Am I going to pick him to win it? Yes, but it's reluctantly at this point. I want to see him do it the right way. I think he is a very dangerous guy. I think his future is in big fights, but he's got to make those changes now when he's not in the big fight, right? Because we've seen with guys like Vicente Luque, you miss weight one time in a critical point in your career could change your career. You know what I'm saying? Like we saw Vicente Luque be the backup for a title fight, miss his weight, never seen or heard from in a title opportunity eliminator again. You know what I mean? And then he's fighting the Nick Diaz's of the sport who've been out of action for a while. So it just goes to show how quickly the sport can change and leave you behind. And in this spot, I think Brian Battle, he cut a great promo. He did everything right. And then to fucking make this as his next move, that's disappointing to see. But I said it before with that Gabe Green fight. He went out there and knocked him out in fucking 11 seconds, and nobody ever talked about it missing weight again. So he can still go out there and have a great performance, change the narrative about this weekend. But right now, he's not bonus eligible. and he's not fighting in the welterweight class. So this is probably not going to move him towards his goals in the division. And for me, as a fan of his, that's very frustrating.
Yeah. And let the record show, I actually do like Bryan Battle. Plus, like, I love that post-fight speech. Loved it as much as everybody else. And also, yes, I am biased. Randy's my boy. I like, and not only would I be biased anyways, I have money on him. But more importantly, that's my boy. I literally tweeted that earlier. I said, back to middleweight with you, Pooh Bear, or something like that. Like, you are not the butcher until you can make weight. And also, I'm biased because I seriously have a problem with weight missing. And like, bro, funny story since you were talking about that, just real quick. I had a super fight, just a cage super grappling match. Dan Severn was the ref. It was pretty sick, but
that's awesome.
He actually, he got to ref two of my super fights because it was a promotion he used to be like the face of around here in the DMV. But anyways, the guy, it was a little smaller back then, and it was supposed to be 155. Like a couple weeks before, he asked it to be 145. And even though the dude was bigger than me, and I was like, dude, seriously, are we gonna cut? Like, you're bigger than me. What's the point? Like, through the what's it called? The owner of the promotion. And dude stressed 145, then came in 161. 161. I cut weight. It was like
Did you try?
It was one of the harder weight cuts of my life. Cut weight to 145 when I was walking around like, I don't know, like 165. Like I didn't cut like 20 pounds. I cut like 15 or like 14, 15, and I, dieted off a couple. But in a couple weeks, I cut 20 pounds, and this piece of shit missed weight by 16 pounds, and he was terrible. I submitted him in like 5 minutes. So it was just a no or submission only.
He was just trying to get you a beach spot, dog.
But
he was just trying to do you a favor.
Like, I was fucking heated, bro. I literally wanted to DQ myself to just, oh my God. Anyways, yeah, I hate weight misser, or I've never missed weight. Technically, I did one time, but really all I did was I just went online and changed my weight class because I was like, there's no way in hell I'm making this weight. So I just went on fucking Grappling Industries or whatever and was like filled up. I ended up being like 3 pounds under the other one. It was like, I like put 7 pounds on and like, 2 hours just drinking water and like, maybe eating a couple crackers. It was, but yeah. So I really just despise missing weight. But anyways, we can move on, bro. Shut me up because I will keep yapping on this topic.
I feel you, G. I think that overall, final pick, I'm going with Bryan Battle in the later rounds, but I would look to probably bet him live here. I do think he might lose this first round, and Randy's a pretty fast starter, dynamic footwork. The other thing I want to see from Bryan is him throwing leg kicks. The way to get to Randy, with all due respect, I know he's your boy, but like leg kicks have just been a common component, right? Whenever you're fighting a big, long, tall guy like that, that's going to be able to dictate range and going to be able to use footwork, you want to take them out at the legs.
He's got skinny
legs.
Bryan
Bryan hasn't thrown leg kicks in many of his fights. He does do it against Tresean Gore, which was a smart guy to throw them against. I think that if his team hasn't had him prepared to throw low kicks against Randy, that will be an indictment as well. So let's see how that goes.
Jeff Neal still got a bonus after missing by 5 pounds. I don't think he got a bonus. That's what B-Negs is saying in the chat.
I don't think that's accurate.
Unless it was like a discretionary bonus.
Yeah, like Dana took the checkbook out or something. But yeah, I think those stories are more more fiction than fact. But
yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Speaking of, though, you said last time, Randy's your boy. Loyalty is plus EV, my man. We've seen it before on this show. We talked about the natural Blake Perry, my boy, who went out there and cashed as a plus 700 underdog a few years back. One of the biggest upsets of the year in Bellator when it took place. And when you look at, Aljamain Sterling, one of my more profitable guys to go to the window with. And I told people, you'd just be foolish to lay -2 something against an O'Malley in Boston. That's not a money-making strategy that I've ever heard of. But when you think about how Aljamain Sterling has performed over the course of his UFC career, I would say he's typically been undervalued at the betting window, period. If you just look back, like against Petr Yan, first time out. It's a closely lined fight. Go to the rematch. He's a plus 370 underdog. Like the public perception had changed radically in a fight where he won by disqualification. He won rounds in that fight. And I would say it was trending all in the wrong direction against Petr Yan the first time, but he was still out there putting up a very high volume and looking okay. It just was clearly unsustainable, right? So then when he got kneed in the head, it was like, all right, easier to get out of here now than be out here for 2 more rounds exhausted, right? But you look at what Aljamain did in the rematch. I mean, it's one of the best performances you've seen in modern MMA. Like just showing how to beat somebody when they have really, really, really good skills. Petr Yan, did he look like a shell of himself in any of these, like, this most recent matchup against Song Yadong the time before that? No, he looked like the same old guy who's very skilled, very difficult to beat, great wrestling, great ability to mix it up, can fight on the feet, can mix it up on the ground. And we kind of saw Aljamain capitalize on his opportunities. You know what I mean? Like goes 2 for 22 on takedowns, dominates the control in the fight, uses it to get 10-8 rounds, where it's very hard to get 10-8 rounds from a judge in modern mixed martial arts unless you half kill a man, rip part of his face off or something. This man Aljamain did it by rolling wrists, dropping elbows, looking for submission attempts from the back, and capitalizing on his opportunities. Now, Movsar Evloev looks like an absolute science experiment. There's no two ways about it. The guy is clearly the more formidable athlete between these two guys. But I must say, man, like tape for tape, skill for skill, I think Aljamain is clearly a better grappler than Movsar Evloev, in terms of technical grappling. And when you look at the submission defense, Movsar is off the charts. Like the guy is just sensational at getting out of bad positions. Some guys like this, right? Like you put them in every choke at the gym, but they roll to it and you keep putting them in them. You're locking from one to the next to the next. You can keep chaining these submissions together, but they just have no give up in them. They're just finding this way to find 1 inch to get a breath. And those guys exist, right? And it's just like, man, you could put them through the spin cycle, but they're very hard to put away. That's how I think of Evloev, right? Very hard to put away. Got a clear will to win the fight, but making bad decisions out there, just like getting taken down pretty easily, getting put in the same front headlock situation against, Grundy that he is all these years later against Arnold Allen multiple times. Arnold Allen is just baiting him to like dip his head forward and he's going for the ninja choke and you're getting big reactions out of Evloev. Half these guys don't even want to wrestle, don't even know how to wrestle. It's like not their A game, right? It's their B game, C game, D game. They're not out there to wrestle anybody. So Movsar is getting away with some of these things. But I do think when you see a guy who's going to try and put him in wrestling situations as his A game, I think Aljamain has a chance to out wrestle him and out grapple him summarily. Now on the feet, I think it's a much more complicated fight because I think who's going to throw more volume over the course of 15 minutes if it's a pure kickboxing match, I'd probably lean that tick over to Aljamain Sterling as well. But I don't think his volume is quite as meaningful. I don't know if his volume is going to be judged quite the same way. Sometimes it's the slapping low kicks. It's, throwing 2 and 3 punches, but maybe not putting as much weight behind them, just touching him. And Evloev on the other side does throw with commitment. I do think he's got a better chance to win this fight by knockout than Aljo does. But I don't see Evloev as a guy that has been getting clear runaway margins. I predicted a split decision last time out against Arnold Allen. He went out there. He had a very competitive fight. He did what he needed to do to win, but he didn't show me that he blew him out of the water. And again, that's a guy that kind of has a style matchup that I would have felt like Evloev should be able to deal with based on his style. He should be able to ground a guy like Arnold Allen when he needs to. He can't, so instead he's got most of the fight spent on the feet, spent dealing with Arnold Allen on the feet, and they're exchanging and having a competitive fight. And Evloev showed his heart and his toughness, but he didn't blow him out of the water either. And he did. Yeah, those knees that were landed, right, that Aljo gets all the grief for. This dude's bleeding all out the side of his head like he got shot with a gun, and those are completely legal knees now. So I don't know, man. This is one where I think the UFC hates both these guys, full stop. I think they do not have any time for Movsar Evloev's boring ass more than they do for Aljamain, right? They're just like, all right, bury these guys in the prelims, and whoever wins, we have to deal with that guy, and the other one gets sent to the back of the line. And I don't think they care who ends up on the bottom of that pile, honestly. What about you, my brother?
Yeah, no, I mean, seems like a lot of love's coming in on Aljo, and I honestly get it. I've been battling it all week. We talked about it a little bit on my show, me and you. Just, I think Aljo is definitely the money line side. I've just been scared all week because Evloev is just, bro, this dude is just absolutely jacked to the gills. I'm trying to be professional.
He is juiced to the tits. I'll step in for you. I'll translate,
Okay,
dude. He is juiced to the tits. He is a
it's your
scientist.
show, so I don't want to cross the line, but dude's on all the Flintstone vitamins. Dear God. And Aljo's always had physicality advantages at 135. It's going to be tough to have that against. I think he still has it at 145 against a lot of guys because people are like, oh, he's coming up, he's going to be small. Dude, the thing is, Sterling can hang at this division. It's just, this is like the one guy. And that might not be on accident. I think this is the UFC saying, hey, we get to get rid of one of these guys. I mean, and I actually like Aljo, man. Like, maybe it's because I kind of relate to his grappling style. We honestly have a pretty similar game. Like, neither one of us are shooting like power blast doubles. We're just leeching guys to guys' backs and then controlling there. We actually have, like, the funny thing is my teammate took the same picture where I'm laughing at him or I'm laughing towards my teammate and I was like making faces and shit while this dude's like on his back. It was my profile picture on Twitter for a while, but I did it first. All right. Aljo copied me. All right. But no, seriously, like, maybe that's why I'm biased. I actually have always liked Aljo because I think people are unfair to him. Like, they don't like the stupid knee thing. Yo, the bottom line was that was a brutal knee. He was already gassed out. He was getting beat the hell up. He's admitted that. And he got hit with a brutal knee, dude. It was brutal and it was clearly illegal. What do you want? Like, we have rules, guys. I know you guys want it to be a freaking, street fight, but it's not. These are sanctioned fights and we have rules. I'm glad the rules changed. And maybe that rule really will be a little bit of an issue for Aljo, who does like to get a little dicey with those, but, scooting around on his knees, on his butt and doing all that. Again, I ain't hating on it. If it gets a takedown, some of the takedowns I get are not pretty, but I'll leech guys to the ground just to get to the back. Sometimes it doesn't need to be an explosive double leg that's super pretty. You leech around a guy to the back. It works. But anyways, yeah, I like Aljo. I think he's one of those guys, because people don't like him, they love to discredit him. But this is arguably the greatest bantamweight of all time, man. So this could be one of those hindsight, damn, we could have got plus 225 on the greatest bantamweight of all time against the guy who can't finish a sandwich. But and that goes right into another rule for 2024. That's why I would never, if you're on Mobzar, it's just like pick a prop or something. Because if it's 2024 and you're betting big favorites when you don't think they're going to finish the fight, you're going to lose a lot of money, because time and time again, man, you're seeing these big favorites. If they don't finish, it's going to be close. The judges don't know what they're looking at. These judges might not even be watching the fight. These judges might mix up the guys' names. Seriously, like, we've seen it all. And that's why, if you're betting, if you think a fight's going to decision, it's dog or pass. Or not necessarily. And let me rephrase. If it's a wide line and you think it's going to decision, it's dog or pass. Now, that can be pass, and then dog. You don't have to jump on every dog that's like that. But if it's a wide line like this and you think, I'm very confident this is going to decision, so it would have to be either Aljo or pass. Right now, it's a pass for me. I kind of miss the better lines, but would never knock anybody for taking the bantamweight GOAT. We can move on.
Hey, man, here's what I got for you. Loyalty is plus EV. I told y'all back in 2020, December 15, 2020, that Funk got next. He was coming for that belt. Booked the rematch with Piotr Jan. We told you what time it was, okay? So Aljamain is a good man. I can't say that about every UFC fighter. I can't say that about many UFC fighters. I met Aljamain. I met Chris Weidman. They were perfect gentlemen. New York, don't mess around, okay? There's no quit in New York. Aljamain coming for one more. Funk got next, baby. Movsar Evloev. Time to find out. Let's see what you got in that chest, baby, because we're coming for it all.
One
The
thing
New York
for sure,
backpack.
I'm definitely rooting for Aljo because, like you said, bro, he gets so much unnecessary hate. He's a good dude, bro. So what? He wasn't happy with the title win. His friends made him put the belt on. Let it go. People seriously won't. Guys, I know and respect.
The thing that I don't understand is he beat him in the rematch. Like
exactly, and people
it just
won't even
is
do
what
it
it
mad.
is. Like,
guys I know and respect, not even casuals, will tell me, "Oh, he put the belt on. He leaned into it." Don't you guys know that if he would have said, "Oh no," if he doesn't lean into it, it just gets worse. So he did what you should do in that and say, "Okay, the fans are going to be ravenous no matter what. Let's lean into it." But when he first put the belt on, dude, I watched the whole video where his friends are like, "Come on." He's like, nah. He's all down. And they're like, "Come on, man. You're the champ. Put the belt up." And he's like, "All right." And he puts the belt up reluctantly. And then that picture got snapped off. And people are like, "Aljo's parading around." Bro, shut up. You've never accomplished shit. And this man just put a UFC title on. Maybe he didn't earn it the way he wanted, but he's still a champion. And
every time, just refer them back to the video of Ray Longo saying, "Aljo, look at the motherfucker," as he's going back to his corner. Aljo from the back, smiling like this. Best picture in a UFC title fight to this day. They'll never take it away from us, okay? Petr Yan is impossible to wrestle, and the two guys from New York taught him how to wrestle once again. Just remember that.
Facts.
Next up, we got Vicente Luque, the silent assassin. Can he get back on track? He's taking on the answer, Themba Gorimbo. And if y'all have been rocking with this show for a long time, before Themba Gorimbo was everybody's cup of tea, he's been our favorite fighter. We've been loving Themba Gorimbo. We've been riding the wave, but the ITD has not been coming recently. I think this is the time. One way or the other, I think the rubber is going to meet the road. It's plus money once again for a welterweight fight to end inside the distance. And you've got Vicente. I just checked out of a fight that I was, somewhat competitive in for no reason. Luque on one side, and we've got Themba, I used to finish fights, and then I all of a sudden started cage pushing everybody relentlessly, Gorimbo. So I think that something's got to give here, man. The front chokes of Vicente Luque or the actual power of Themba Gorimbo, something. What do you got here, Cody?
Yeah, no, I'm on Themba here. Themba. I think he wins. Like, I think people... He's another one. He's kind of like similar in a way like Aljo, where like everybody, like you said, he hasn't been finishing, and people are betting his inside the distance, and they're missing it. So they're like, "I hate this guy. He's the most boring guy of all time." Dude, I've had so many people all week. Actually, you were on Wager Wars, and I think was that Dan, or was that episode 2 maybe? Because I've had a lot of people this week telling me like they weren't impressed with the Nico fight, and I just have to disagree. Like, he took him down 7 times. And he quadrupled him up on strikes. Now, you could tell me, yes, he only landed like 65 strikes. He got hit like 12, okay? If you have a bet on a guy and he only gets hit 12 times in the fight and he hits the other guy 65 times and he took him down 7 times, you're a happy camper, man. We don't want entertaining brawls when we're betting these fights. I want the fights I don't bet on to be brawls. I want the fights I bet on to be the most boring, stupid. I want it to be so boring that I'm looking at my phone, that I'm not paying attention. That's
clean,
the fight I want.
Methodical.
Yeah. I want him throwing foot stomps for 13 minutes up against the cage on poor Vicente, who's a fan favorite, and I love the guy. I do love Luque, but not just the loss. I haven't liked the last couple of performances. I haven't been liking the things he's saying outside of the cage, admitting straight up, like, this isn't narrative. He straight up said he was afraid to get hit. And I get it. I would be afraid to get hit too if I had a brain bleed. And I don't even like putting that in the air. I'm so tired. I'm almost tired of breaking down Luque fights because I'm a law of attraction type of guy. And I don't like talking about that injury because the guy's got a family. Screw all this fighting shit. I just want him to be healthy and good. That's what really matters. The good thing for him is I don't think he's going to be having to eat too many shots. Themba has some power, but honestly, I think he's just going to wrestle him up. Even prime Luque, yes, it was against great fighters, high-level elite guys, but he's never been a good wrestler. He has good jiu-jitsu, slick chokes, good power, good leg kicks, good left hook, but he's not a great wrestler. And I think Themba, if people don't give him the credit, but he's a big, strong, athletic dude, and we definitely ain't gonna question Timba's heart. This he's hungry. He wants to go as far as possible. We'll see how far that can be, but I think he's the much hungrier guy, the bigger guy with the better hardware who's just gonna go in there and implement a game plan. He doesn't care about entertaining the fans. He wants to win. He wants to keep this momentum going, and I think he's gonna do exactly that. So give me Timba. I parlayed him up with one other leg we'll talk about in a bit. Take it away, man.
Yeah, I think if you look at Temba's losses, they've mostly been him getting submitted, right? Like I think he's been hurt a handful of times, but most of the time he gets submitted, by guys that are a little bit more talented with the grappling. And that's something that you could try and refine as you, move on with your career, right? You could improve on your grappling. You can get better coaches, training partners, better looks in the room. The problem for Vicente Luque is like, you can't undo, something that's already been done, right? You can't undo damage. It's permanent. And that I think is the story of his career, unfortunately. And I mentioned before the weight miss that kind of cost him a big opportunity. This guy beat Tyron Woodley pretty shortly removed from Tyron Woodley's title run. And I thought that he was going to be the guy to take it from him, frankly, right? He lost the opportunity. Kamaru Usman took it. And then what happened? He never got back there. And I don't think he ever will, unfortunately, based on everything I've seen. Frankly, Bilal Muhammad, made one adjustment. He's like, all right, I'm going to fight from southpaw. And he just embarrassed Vicente Luque, just like completely rendered his game, null and void. And we've seen in subsequent bouts, like the confidence isn't there. The will to compete isn't really there. And him out wrestling RDA, that was a fine win. And I actually expected him to mix in the grappling there. I did think he was going to finish the fight, but, I just thought size was a factor. He's way bigger. Temba's not a small guy. Temba's not a weak guy. I think he's going to be able to move around with Luque. And if he doesn't make a categoric, horrible mistake in the grappling, I just think he wants to be out there more. I think he wants to get into a fight more right now than Vicente Luque does. And, I think he's longer for this game than Vicente Luque is. 33 plus fights into a UFC, into an MMA career for Vicente Luque. And the opposite is true for Temba Garimbo. Less experienced, right? Hasn't been fighting these dangerous guys, but also what has the cost been? In almost every Vicente Luque win, you can go back and find moments where he's getting touched, he's getting hit, he's getting rocked, but he kind of just stays in the fire, keeps pushing. Look back at the Wonder Boy fight. He just got his ass whooped for the duration, right? The guy's tough as an old leather boot, but eventually he can't take it anymore. And even in that Jeff Neal fight, he absorbed way more damage than was necessary. And it was in part because of his toughness. And I just don't think we're seeing the same guy anymore. So after that Buckley fight, I just can't be betting on Vicente. And I think he's a great fighter. We respect his game, but everything is about timing in MMA. And I think the timing is important in this fight. 2 years ago, Vicente Luque would have been favored and should have been. And I just don't know if he's got it anymore. I don't know if he wants to be here anymore. In his hometown in New Jersey last time out, he folded up the shop, man, went home. And that's a hard place to be as a fighter, but sometimes that's just the reality of where you're at. And I don't think Temba's ready to just fold it over. So if he gets put into a choke or something like that, that's the way it is, right? That's the game. But aside from that, I just think he's the guy who wants it way better right now.
Yeah. Yo, shout out to Nick Alexandre in the chat. He's our tinfoil hat guy in the chat. Bro said probably a sub clause in the fight contract when Timba took Nick Diaz's spot to not hit him hard in the head. Diaz post that's some serious tinfoil hat, bro. He's coming in there like they're in there like, yo, so shoot the double and then I go for the ghillie. Like WWE in there, bro.
Yeah, they got the ringmaster ready for this. What a pull from the other desk. They got the ringmaster Vince McMahon on the call over there. That's what they think.
Oh, yeah.
WWE headquarters is on the call.
Is the script?
Hey, TKO group, watch this space, bro. Watch this space. If we go out there and see it called exactly like he said, then we'll know.
Is the script leaked? Watch them.
Oh, dude, just like Tyson, bro. Just like Tyson, the leaked script. If you saw the leaked script came out before.
I did see it.
Oh, let's see if we got the leaked script for Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes. I mean, this one's got sadness written all over it. I mean, like, on the one hand, Dominic Reyes, I was happy to see him get back on track. I thought he was going to get back on track against Jacoby. I think this is another very winnable fight for him, a good spot, so to speak. But, how much can you trust him, right? Not that much when he's coming off of a bunch of losses and one win. Did lose to Ryan Spann, common opponent, who Anthony Smith dealt with a number of times, but seems like this is Anthony Smith's retirement fight. Lost his original martial arts coach, almost missed weight for this contest, had to go back and cut more weight. And he's not a big guy, right? Like, just all due respect, like the guy used to fight at 185. He was clearly huge at 185, but that's 20 pounds less than what we're dealing with, this weekend. And so to come in and almost miss weight for this, I don't think that Anthony's training as hard as he could, for these fights. And, it's his life at this point, right? Like, he knows how to fight. He doesn't really need to be in the gym every day, but I think it shows in the latter portions of his fights, right? When fights make it to round 2 and 3 these days, I feel like he's huffing and puffing and barely putting out output and, looking kind of like a shell of himself. So I think that we're probably going to see K1 Anthony Smith with piss and vinegar for about 3 minutes here, based on his attitude in the, press conferences and everything like that. He says, I want to go destroy something. And, whether he's the buzzsaw or I am, I'm just going to run in the fire. And, maybe Anthony has some success doing that. I think that's probably his best chance to beat Reyes, is to hurt him early or try and take him to the mat. But honestly, I don't think Reyes is a horrible grappler. He submitted Ozzy Diaz, I want to say, on the California amateur scene back in 2012 or something. Like, the guy knows a little bit about grappling. It's just he likes to strike. He likes to keep it upright. John Jones punked Cyril Gahn, right? He didn't go out there and just take down Dominic Reyes and punk him in the first, couple of minutes, right? So I just think of this fight as like, unless Anthony gets a really opportunistic back take, he's probably just going to be on the receiving end of more punishment. And I don't like Dom's chin, but I think his offense is way better, way more lethal, probably can sustain it for longer as well. So, yeah, I mean, the price is disgusting, but I lean towards Dominic Reyes getting the job done. What about you, Cody?
Yeah. Dude, I was kind of tempted earlier today. I'm still kind of like just eyeing it. I don't know. I'll sleep on it. I got a lot of bets already, but Reyes by decision is plus 400. I don't know. I just feel like if it goes to decision, I would be stunned if Reyes didn't win. Like, so yeah, as long as Reyes doesn't chin him, I don't know. I mean, I get everybody's on the under, and I do think it's probably gonna be finished. I feel like Reyes probably KOs him, but because it's just a tough matchup, man. I don't want to bet minus 370 on a guy who's, I don't care about the John Jones fight, win, loss, whatever you want to call it. But what I do care about is just the damage he's taken. And nothing in the last fight tells me that he's back. It's like he backed up to the cage and he threw a couple bombs and Dustin walked right into it and went down. Nothing about that told me Dominic can take shots again. Nothing about it told me Dominic's locked in and he's going to give me 15 minutes of high-level fighting. But I will say, man, I'd be stunned if Anthony won a decision. I would be stunned. I don't see that happening, bro. It is a bad matchup for Anthony. As long as, I mean, because Anthony's a jiu-jitsu guy. He doesn't have the best wrestling. Dominic's got pretty solid takedown defense, strong hips, athletic, big, strong guy, hits hard, better striking. It's going to be tough for Anthony to take this guy down without taking, big shots. And it's not like Anthony, he doesn't have best wrestling. He doesn't have a ton of power. So it's like, I don't know, man. I think Dominic probably does chin him, but if I was going to bet anything, it would probably be that Dominic Reyes by decision 4-1. Honestly, I just feel like all I got to worry about is, basically if it goes to decision, I'm cashing because I really don't see Smith winning a decision. I think he's got to finish Reyes. And even that, I just don't find very likely. I don't know.
I mean, Smith just got easily beaten by a middleweight. You know what I mean? Like, a middleweight just stepped up on short notice and was like, yeah, what do you need me to do? Okay. Just dance around him, do whatever I need, take him down, beat him up. Like, what do you need, boss? Like, and I always have thought the Lidze is better than the average, UFC capper or whatever. I've liked the Lidze, but still, I expected him to win and even face more resistance, dude. It was it just looked like a shell of Anthony Smith out there.
I wish I would have bet the Lidze more in that Holland fight, man. That was free money. But
You're telling
I
me,
did
bro.
bet him.
I also thought that was like such an easy call, and I did not bet enough on it. So regrets this year was not sizing up on the most confident reads. I
Yeah,
was pretty damn sure that he was going to win that fight, man.
I knew.
I picked like almost every Kevin Holland fight right for the last while, but that one I was just like, this seems too easy. Like, how is he not going to beat him? Kevin
I
Holland at
just gave
185
myself
can't
props.
wrestle.
So I'll shit on myself. I actually bet Holland over MVP. Man, that one didn't age well.
Dude,
But I yeah, no, I bet Kevin Holland against
oh, I was
MVP.
thinking of JDM. Dude,
Oh no,
JDM, I actually picked Holland over, and that was a close fight. Like, I'll say JDM probably deserved the nod there. No, fair
I
play.
bet
But
Holland in that
dude, it
one
was
too. Now
close.
that you
It was
say that,
close.
I've actually missed on both those. I bet Holland in both those fights. Matter of fact, I feel like I've done pretty well on Holland. I think those are like the only two that I've at least bet wrong with Holland because I've done a pretty good job fading him against guys that could take him down, which is exactly what I did in Dolidze. But yeah, in that JDM and MVP fight, I was like, okay, this might be a time where I can bet him. Didn't work out. So typically when I'm fading Holland, it works out great. But when I'm betting him, not so well. But yeah, I think Dominic probably chins him. But I don't know, that decision prop kind of stuck out to me. I don't know if I'll bet it. I have like 9 bets on this card, bro. That's a lot for me. So I might
Hell
just
yeah, man.
stay there.
Yeah, this is probably a pass for me based on the prices, but I just lean towards Dom Reyes getting the job done. I'm with you there. I think he probably wins if it goes the distance, but I also think, he's got a pretty decent chance to finish here. If you guys want to show a little love and support as we move along to the main card, really easy way to do that. Number one, I left the information for Cody to find him on Twitter as well as on YouTube down in the information box down below. You guys can go find it there. Easy way to support our guest, showing us some love, giving us some time, and we really appreciate that. And everybody who's in the sharpest chat in the game right now, thank you all so much. If y'all don't mind, drop a like on the show. Help everybody else find it as we move along here. 1:25 local time in the morning, but we showed no signs, of slowing down as we got Nate the Train Landwehr taking on Doo-Ho Choi, the Korean Superboy. This is opening up the main card. It's a fantastic fight. We're kicking to our guest first for this one. Cody, how do you see this one going down? Closest line fight on the main card, and I think it's a banger.
I do think it's a great fight. And this is the one I was hinting out earlier. So on the Durden fight, I'm kind of on that public dog. And this fight, I feel like I'm kind of on that island favorite. This is one where it seems like a lot of people are on Doo-Ho Choi. And honestly, I've heard a lot of great points. I've heard a lot of great points that have, I won't say scare me because I tend to feel more comfortable in these than when everybody's on my guy, but he's still the underdog. That always scares me. But I've heard a lot of great points because Nate does like a dogfight. And what is Doo-Ho Choi known for? What is he in the Hall of Fame for? Exactly that. And he does have a hell of a lot of power. And Nate's been clipped a couple times. He's been knocked out both times by a knee. I will say that Erosa fight maybe a little bit early, but he was hurt. But that Herbert Burns fight, dear Lord, that was a meme. But is what it is. It's a cage fight. Knees get slang around. If they touch your chin, you go night night. But Nate's a freaking dog. I mean, man, this dude, he might be like my favorite on the mic of all time. Dude's got like 20 lines that could be like, I don't know, that are like movie lines. I mean, I could just freaking Dogfather was going down the list of them earlier. It was hilarious. But yeah, dude's freaking character, bro. I love this guy. I just want him to win so we can get another post-fight speech. Look at this bicep. This shit's hilarious, bro. I might lose, but if not, I'm probably going to win. Dude's fucking character, bro. But yeah, no. Doo-Ho Choi does have power. Nate does get hit. And Doo-Ho Choi does seem like he's rounding out the grappling. But I will say, Algeo's got good jiu-jitsu. He is a limp noodle, though. Let's be real. Nate Landwehr, on the other hand, yeah, he's been clipped. But I got to say, both times Choi got finished recently, he didn't get knocked out. Honestly, in my eyes, this is even worse. Because rather than get knocked out, he kind of quit. He kind of got hurt and just kind of tucked up the old, I'm going to just, curl up and take this TKO because, I'm done. And that's kind of what happened in both those fights of Stevens and Jourdain. And who's Jourdain making quit like that anytime recently? I'm not trying to MMA math it, but I'm just saying.
Victor Henry.
Oh dear God, that
I honestly
insane.
couldn't believe that, dude. That hats off to him, man. He looked
Yeah,
great in the bantamweight division.
he really did look great. New division, maybe that'll help him. But what the hell? Yeah, no. But I will say, one guy will never in his career see tuck up like that and take a TKO. My boy Nate Landwehr. Both times. Well, one of the times he went out cold. The other time he was trying to continue, but he was hurt. But the ref stopped it. It's just Nate ain't never gonna quit. He's gonna fight for your money, and these are the type of guys I love to bet, bro. And if he wants to try to mix it up, I think he could take Doo Ho Choi down. Maybe he can't dominate there. Maybe he can't find the submission, even though I think he can. I think the submission, honestly, gun to my head, I think he submits Choi. But even if he doesn't, I think he can mix up the takedowns to edge some rounds. But it's probably gonna be, I don't know, man. I think there's gonna be a finish. I could see him winning all three paths, and maybe Choi clips him. But I like Nate. He's just got more paths to victory, man. So give me Nate. Gun to my head, I take the sub. But I just played his money line -133. I got reverse CLV'd a little bit, but I think it's now coming back. So makes me feel a little bit better because for a second he was like -120, and I was like, damn it, I've been doing good with my line prediction lately, and I thought I was gonna eat some crow there, but I guess I'm good. What about you, man? What do you think?
Dude, I think this is, rightly lined close. Like, I do think it's a difficult fight to call. And the only reason I say that is like, if you said like Nate Landwehr doesn't get knocked out in this fight, like then I would make him a massive favorite just because I think he's a guy that pushes a pretty insane, pace rate. And he's also a guy that, like you said, he's willing to take any amount of damage. So if I know he's not going to get knocked out, then I'm pretty sure he's going to win the fight. But it's also a kind of fight where Herbert Burns, it's just a nobody, right? Like he's in terms of like his UFC quality, he's never produced a similar result. Julian Erosa, a guy that could be on the wrong end of those highlight reels just as likely as he is to put somebody on the highlight reel. These are the kind of guys that Nate should beat, but he just has this chin problem where when it's early on in the fight, he can get clipped, man. And we even saw it against Jamal Emmers. Like he was getting rocked pretty bad. He's getting touched up there. And then Jamal, his coaches were screaming at him. They're like, stop going crazy. Stop banging with him. And then he banged with him and died. And it's like Nate lives for that kind of ruckus. But Doo Ho Choi likes a clean fight. Like you mentioned, like when the fight gets dirty, he doesn't like it. So that's why it feels so binary to me. I think that Choi is probably going to have success in the first round here, countering Nate on his way in. Nate is a little bit older. He's a little bit slower when he comes in. And I think that Choi is going to take advantage of that in the first couple exchanges. It's just for me, the longer the fight builds, the more likely it is that Nate takes over and wins it. He's not Kyle Nelson. He's not going to slow down as the fight goes on. He is a real athlete, and he can push the pace. So for me, I would like to live bet on the Nate side if I could in this type of opportunity. I think that if you like Doo Ho Choi, you have to get in pre because his best chance to win the fight is via knockout in the first round. And I think that, you might have an opportunity if you're on the Choi side to exit and have an arbitrage opportunity after one round. So those are the kind of thoughts that I have on this fight. But it just seems to me like I don't want to be laying the price with Nate and then he gets chinned in the first round. But also, if he gets his pace going and Doo Ho Choi never lands a big shot, he could just justify looking like a big favorite. So I love Nate. I'm rooting for Nate. I'm not going to mush him this week. I'm going to give you guys one round to work with and then see if we can maybe get involved after one round. But I think that it's just Nate's fight to lose as it gets extended, man. He pushes a crazy pace. And like you said, people don't talk about his submission game, but he's just willing to take it anywhere. And against Onama, in my humble opinion, he could have submitted that guy. And instead, he was out there playing to the crowd and doing his thing. Like he kind of is a wild card. He does his own stunts, but he's just a crazy fighter. And you ain't want to be out there with a guy like Nate in an extended fight. Like he's just the wrong kind of guy. So Doo Ho Choi early, or it's going to start getting real messy for him down the stretch.
Yeah. Hey, shout out Julian Erosa, by the way, to the chat. I love Julian Erosa. I bet him inside the distance in his last 3 fights. It didn't work out in that Padilla fight, but in the Ramos and C-Rod fight, and people were calling me an idiot for that. That was actually one of my favorite cashes, like semi recently. That C-Rod. I like C-Rod, but I faded him with Julian Erosa inside the distance. That was a
Dude,
good
I
cash.
should have realized that the prospect killer was going to get beat by the first veteran that he fought, but I didn't put it together. Great bet by you, and that was a really cool one. I was happy for Arosa too, man. He's a fun guy to see succeed. He's
Yeah,
had
no,
some tough beats. He's a fun guy to see succeed.
he really is, man. Honestly, he's had a warm place in my heart ever since I bet him as a pretty. I think that was I can't remember the line, but he was a pretty big dog. I bet him inside the distance over Sean Woodson, and I'm high on Sean Woodson too. Like that was a freaking sick win, man. I actually have a bet on Sean Woodson, with somebody on this card. So I'm high on Sean Woodson, and the one loss. Now I wasn't expecting it, like to be like that. I mean, then again, that's just how Erosa does. But I haven't hit every time with Erosa, but he has been overall profitable for me just because he's always a dog, man. He's just one of those guys. Like actually P said in the chat, he really can beat anybody. Not anybody, but he can beat a lot of guys in the division on a good night. Like he's kill or be killed, bro. He'll latch up that choke on anybody. I love that dude, bro.
Absolutely. Dogfather with maybe the toughest beat of all time. He had a Rosa plus 230 and sub 2-3.
Oh
That's
man.
tough. That's tough, man. Really, really good. But let's get to this one, my man. Bryce Mitchell, Crone Gracie, the battle of flat earth, right? The kingdom of flat earth. We got to get a king. I'll just tell you the truth, man, as I see this one. Bryce Mitchell minus 1,000 in a UFC fight. I didn't think I'd see the day. Didn't think I'd see the day.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got the skills to cover that kind of price long term in MMA. I don't think he's got the brain to cover that long term in MMA. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, just trying to call it the way I see it, right? He's got opinions on everything, right? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got them. But I also think the guy is just like, not always optimal with his decision making inside the octagon. He's taken a lot of damage in some of these recent fights. We all know the one that was most recent, devastating knockout loss, but Dan Ige busted him up a bunch, right? Was landing some really good shots there. It's just that Bryce was able to bail himself out with takedowns all over the gaff whenever he wanted to. And I look at this fight and I say to myself, like, you've got a guy who's really, really, really actively dumb against another guy who is going to probably, try and win the fight. So it's like, okay, I'm already interested. Now it's like, all right, well, let's paint a picture. Who is this guy on the other side? Crone Gracie last time out put on a pitiful performance against Charles Jourdain. You would never see me defend it, right? But he forgot the golden rule, which is that it's a fight. This isn't a jiu-jitsu match, man. And you know as well as I do, like everything, competition's competition. You want to go out there and get experience, all that. It's beneficial, but it's just different, right? It's different when there's punches and kicks and, you got to be aggressive out there. And I'll say it as a fight fan, nothing I hate more than when somebody goes out there and nobody told him this isn't a wrestling match, buddy. We're fighting. Like, don't just take the guy down. Take him down, try and punch him. Take him down, trying to advance your position, get a submission. Let's be done with this. The point of a fight is advancing to finish the fight, right? Just like I don't like to watch a wrestling match when somebody's out there and just on top holding on. We understand the game. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but it's like, I want to see somebody trying to put somebody to their back and finish the match. That's how you get interesting wrestling happening. So it's just, for me, you look at a fight like this and you say, okay, what is the upside for Bryce Mitchell? Is he going to exceed this price? Is he going to look like he should have been a minus 2,000 favorite? Maybe if Crone Gracie just shows up for the paycheck, that's possible. But aside from that, it's like the guy whose best skills are on the ground against a world class, right? Not based on my opinion, ADCC winner, world class ground game. How's he going to justify minus 1,000? Is it his world class striking? Everybody keeps talking about he knocked down Edson Barbosa. I'm like, I know. I watched that fight. I see what you're saying, but it's like, was that a super replicable shot? Like, if they go kickbox, are you going to favor Bryce Mitchell? Answer me that. Like, no, right? Like, nobody would say that. So it's like, I think Bryce is probably the better striker here, but do I think it's by a big margin? No, I think it's by a medium, small margin, right? It's like Kron Gracie against Cub Swanson, that performance, which is 2 UFC fights ago, would absolutely be competitive on the feet with Bryce Mitchell, in my view. That's a bar fight. That there's nothing very sophisticated about it. Come forward, throw punches, act like you want to be in there. If Kron Gracie does that, I think he could win a decision against Bryce Mitchell. So I'll just leave it there. Like I could look like a fool, and I acknowledge that up front, but I think the price is probably wrong. What do you think, Cody?
I wonder what the decision prop is. What is this? Oh, nah, it's not. Damn, I thought it would have been crazier. How's the decision prop like less than the what? The sub prop is actually juicier than the decision prop? How does that make sense?
Dude,
All
it's
the wins
because
are like,
imagine the ways this fight plays out. Either Bryce tries to wrestle and get on top, in which case he's grappling with Kron Gracie, or he doesn't at all, and they probably stay on the feet for the most part. And then it's like, who is going
yeah,
to win if they just strike it out on the feet? I think the sports book is saying the same thing, which is like, I don't fucking know. Like, these guys both are terrible on the feet, and they could both, like, literally, how could you price somebody in a stand-up fight coming off the worst knockout you've ever seen minus 1,000 when they're not that good on the feet on their best day? It's just like that for me is interesting, you know?
yeah. I mean, I could never bet a guy minus 1,000 coming off a long layoff and literally one of the most brutal KOs I've ever seen. Like, dude, it made me uncomfortable. I don't even like when I was new to watching the sport and I was young and I hadn't been around people who have had concussions. I had a couple concussions of my own. I don't even like watching that shit anymore. Like, dude, I wasn't even trying to look. I was like, once dudes are out like that and it's been like 10 seconds and they're still out, I get uncomfortable, man. Like, I've seen it in person. I've watched dudes get starched unconscious and be laying there for like a minute straight out cold. You're like, dude, is this guy like alive? Am I about to witness a death? And then, man, it's just, yeah, it's brutal, bro. That was a bad knockout. I don't want to play the doctor out here, but it's tough to bet minus 1,000 on a guy, long layoff, and literally was like seizing unconscious for like minutes, like in his very last fight. Not to mention, yeah, I was just touching on our show, and I will say, Kron's interview, I mean, my God, it might have been the biggest red flag like you could get out of a pre-fight interview. I mean, he was literally like, did you hear that? I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I heard the interview and I had mixed feelings about it because I know what you're talking about. Like he was saying like, I'd rather get it over sooner because then the sooner I'm done, like the sooner I go back to my life or whatever. But I also just relate to that as a competitor. Like I don't like sitting around watching everybody's matches all day and whatever. I'd rather be done, and then go
If that's
watch
what he
everything
meant,
else,
then yeah, 100% agree, dude. I love when I'm like, oh, sweet, my bracket's first. Then I can just be done, eat food, drink water, watch my teammates with a hot dog. I'm chilling. Nothing's worse than like I'm watching. Now I gotta go compete. Now I'm waiting forever. Now I'm like, I'd rather just get my shit done. So if that's what he meant, by all means. But yeah, I was saying all that to say it's not like we weren't too far removed from Mitchell talking about, I might be done. I'm gonna just go out to my farm. Like he was just talking about retiring. I think he mentioned retirement after his last 3 fights. Like, I think this is the UFC saying, come on, bro. We gave you the camo shorts. The fans like you. We give you a fight where you're probably not going to eat damage. Like, come back in, bro. Come on. Like, they're trying to reel him back in. They like the kid. But, and I think that's what they're trying to do here. But, hey, man, and minus 1,000, there's enough question marks and red flags there. So, yeah, I would never be betting him. And this. I don't have any money on it. If I was going to bet Kron, I personally would probably be on the sub 14-1. Like, we got a flat earther. Am I really going to trust this guy to not wrestle Kron? And maybe Kron just sweeps him and ends up, freaking submitting this guy or taking his back or something. Who knows? But I don't love betting on guys. Like, if I think they're going to be on their back, like their path to victory is a submission off their back, but maybe he can sweep him. Maybe he can take his back. I don't know, man.
Yeah, if Bryce gets submitted by G and a Gi, Kron Gracie, then he's going back to full-time rapping. That's some inside MMA lore for you guys. Hardcore fans, I respect you, and I hope that you felt that appreciation. But for me, man, it's so simple. You give me a guy whose best skill set is going on the ground, and he wants to go with an ADCC champion, and the odds are plus 600. I'm just like, let's find out, and we'll just live with the result.
Ain't nothing but a G and a G.
There you go. Dude, next up, my man, I hate to say, I watched this fight back, and I became sad because I thought that Volkov was live, and there's still a world in which he's live. I think he would just have to approach the fight radically differently. But this is a rematch of a fight where Cyril Gane just had his way with Volkov. If you look back, like, there was a few moments of opportunity for Volkov. Like, I'm talking, he knocked Gane off his feet one time. He like caught a kick and like knocked him off balance. Gane fell to his butt, and he was too slow to like react to get on top. Like just a couple things like that make me think he's going to have a hard time here. Gane's a little bit older, 34, 36 for Volkov. Volkov's been a little more assertive with his boxing lately. I think he needs to do that here. His best success against Gane was when he committed to his boxing, right? That was like the only real success he had in that fight, where he landed a couple stiff uppercuts. He landed a couple good, straight shots with his right hand. But ultimately, the jab of Gane, the speed of Gane, it was all too much for Volkov. And I will say, if it wasn't a 5-round fight, Gane might have put his foot on the gas a little bit more. He kind of like let him off the hook a couple times, where he was starting to unload a little bit in round 3 and round 4. I think round 4, Volkov started to chip away a little bit in the early part. And then again, latter portion of the round, Gane got back into it. If you were asking me, like, what was your score through 3 rounds? Like, unfortunately, it was 30-27 Cyril Gane. And the last time these guys fought, I suggested betting Cyril Gane minus 160. I mean, it's literally $2 and 15 cents more, right? And it's now a shorter time frame. It's a little bit heavier Volkov. It's a Volkov that, his career is basically at the point where he doesn't have time to go to decision anymore and like figure it. It's like, if he doesn't go out there and beat this guy in impressive fashion, he is not getting into a title conversation, period. So I think that it's probably just a fight for Gane to go out there and, fight smart and not lose. It does seem like he's one fight away from another title opportunity. And I want Volkov to win the fight because not a huge Cyril Gane guy, but just looking back at the tape, like, unless Volkov does something radically different in this fight, he's going to go out there and out leg kick him, but ultimately get outlanded on head strikes that matter and, maybe get busted up in this fight. So I think that the other thing that I will note is Gane did attempt wrestling in that fight and Volkov didn't. Gane didn't sniff a takedown there, but he did attempt the takedowns. I think that's the only other thing Volkov could look to switch up here is like try and take him down. And honestly, I think Gane is just like weirdly fish-like off his back, right? Like we saw it against John. It wasn't a great look, but that's the GOAT. You give him a pass. Dude, Francis Ngannou like learned how to wrestle for like 6 months in the US before he did that to, to Cyril Gane. I'll just leave it there. If you look back, like that was not a great look. So how do you see this one going down, Cody? It does feel like I hate being the chalk guy or like it's going to go the same way as last time. I really hate that and resent it, but I'm just like, after rewatching the tape, I understand why people feel that way. It just does seem like he could do it again, right? Like what's stopping him from doing that again over 15 minutes? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, I won't even classify the John Jones performance as fish-like tendencies of the wrestling. Nope. His wrestling gets a complete pass for me in the John Jones fight because you know what it was? It wasn't the wrestling. It was the fact that he quit. He proved to me that he does not have that heart. He does not have that dog in him. When the going gets tough, he's a quitter. I don't know if it was before the fight, during the fight. I know there's some sharp guys that still tell me that they think it was a work. I don't think it was a fixed fight. I just think he quit. He looked across the octagon and saw the GOAT, John Jones, and he said, I ain't got nothing tonight. Live to fight another day. Get me up out of here before I get hurt. And the first opportunity he got to get
fixed or not, it was before the fight. That's all I know for sure. He was beaten before that fight
He
started.
looked like a deer in headlights before the fight. He was looking across the cage like, shit. I want to be anywhere on the planet but here. And that's what happened, man. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 10 years. I'm not saying I'm the greatest jiu-jitsu artist of all time, but I know jiu-jitsu pretty well. And it's not the fact that I'm sure there was some pressure on his neck. That's John Jones. He's a big, strong dude who's been grappling for 20 years. He knows how to put some pressure on the neck. but that's all it was with some pressure on the neck. And it's not about the fact that wasn't some decent pressure. It's the fact that he made 0 defensive movements. He didn't fight the hands. He didn't try to come up on an underhook. He didn't try to go back flat and get desperate. Dude, I would have done a lot more desperate things. When I'm getting dead to rights choked and there ain't even $100,000 on the line like it is for these guys, let alone more, I'm in the gym for free doing more defensive movements than that. Like, for free in practice in the gym where it might be me and the guy with nobody watching. I'm making more of an effort to defend a choke than that. I'm fighting the hands. I'm coming up on trying to get an underhook. Worst case scenario, time to bail. I'm going back flat. I'm fighting the hands and going back flat and trying to freaking get my chin in there. I'm trying to do anything. No defensive movements at all. So he doesn't have wrestling. He's willing to quit. And he has a horrible fight IQ. This dude sat back on a heel hook when all he had to do was not die for 2 minutes and he wins the fight. So, Hunter said in the chat, 20-1, I'll do you one better. I bet him at 28-1 by sub, Volkov. You can get him 30-1 by sub right now on DraftKings. Does it probably hit? No, Gane probably wins by decision. But like you said, Volkov does need to do something different. I will say, I don't listen to pre-fight talk often, and we did just talk about Crone shit. So now we're going back to back. But I got to say, at least Volkov did say at the press conference, they said something along the lines of, what are you going to do to get the win in this fight? It's a basic question like that. And he said, basically, I went into the last fight with the wrong game plan. I'm going to come in with a completely different game plan, and that's why I'm going to get the win in this fight. So at least he knows. At least he said what you said. He knows what I did last time didn't work. I got to do something different. Maybe that doesn't mean wrestling. Maybe that means some different strategies with the striking. Maybe he's going to be more aggressive come forward. Who knows? But one of those paths that's not what he did last time is wrestling. And if he attempts it, all I know is I've seen Gane tap to things that weren't real chokes. So if Volkov just latches up a neck at some point, maybe Gane just quits. Or maybe Volkov, he got a submission of, what was that, Tuivasa a couple fights ago?
Man. He knocked him down, followed him to the ground, and finished.
30-1. He's a big guy. He's a 255 pounder. Big guy, 6'7", long arms. I don't know. Gane's a fish, bro. Like, he sucks on the ground. Period. I remember when he was first coming to the UFC, people were like, this dude can do it all. He's a high-level jiu-jitsu. He can wrestle, bro. I remember people telling me he could wrestle, bro. And, hey, I hadn't seen it on tape yet, so I was like, damn, maybe this dude could wrestle. This dude could be something. And then we finally saw some wrestling exchanges. I'm like, oh, never mind. Yep,
he can wrestle the Don'Tale Mazes of the division,
Yeah, exactly.
I really think that I like that from Volkov. Like, come in with a different game plan, change something up a little bit, and just be athletic. Get on top of this guy. I honestly think if either one of these guys ends up flat on their back, like, the fight is probably over. Like, the one thing I will say is that straight armbar against Aspinall, dude, like, what are we doing, Volkov? Like, he's been grappling his whole life. Like, he's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's been around the game of MMA for a very, very long time. He had no business getting straight armbarred there, in my view. But when you're a big guy like that and you're flat on your back underneath another heavyweight, like, it's problems, right? So I think if either one of these guys ends up flat on their back, it's probably looking like Turtle City. That's just where I'll leave it. I think Volkov's the more effective top player, but I don't think Gane is like an unwilling submission artist. Like, we've seen, if anything, he's kind of officially enthusiastic, falling back for leg locks from the top position, which is like white belt 101. Like, do not do that as like a positional trade, but it does show at least he wants to go out there and submit people. And he did submit, I believe, Don'Tale Mayes with that move, if my memory serves. So there you go. Cyril Gane's been working on that straight ankle lock.
It's a 255-pound guy with 50 fights. He's pretty well-rounded. He hasn't wrestled in a while, but if you go back and watch his old tape, he used to wrestle more. Maybe he could bring it back, man. He's got the skills. If he chooses to try something different, you got 30-1, man. The two guys who tried to grapple Gane beat him easily.
That would be a clear Wager Wars win for me if we could get this Volkov sub. So knock on wood, brother. That's what we need.
Oh, you did bet that. That's right.
Hell yeah,
that
man.
is your Wager Wars play. That's right. Hell yeah.
Speaking of, let's see what we got here, my man. One of the most fascinating fights on the card. Somebody's has got to go. The undefeated Shavkat Rakhmonov. He deserves the hype. What else can you say? I mean, the guy goes out there and finishes everybody. He's got great wins, but who's the disrespected man of the two? Ian Machado Gary. I will say, up the Irish here, the future Ian Machado Gary fought a lot of the same guys that Shavkat did in the UFC, fought a little bit longer in the UFC, a couple more fights. So I think that Ian Gary has been out here doing what he needs to prove that he's of this ilk. But now the rubber meets the road, right? It's a huge fight. Two guys that both used to train at Killcliff, both were regarded as future champions by their teammates, by each other, right? Like both these guys kind of understand, like, this guy is going to be somebody I have to fight in the future. So I'm fascinated by this matchup, man. We'll kick it to our guest first. How do you feel about this one, brother?
Yeah, man. I don't know. Like you said, man, I like Shavkat. Like, I think, I mean, how can you not love the guy? 18-0, 18 finishes, 8 subs, 8 knockouts. I mean, dude, come on. Like, duh, I like the guy. Duh, I like MMA. Obviously, I'm a Shavkat fan. Nobody's like, I don't really like unless you're like just hate Kazakhstans for some reason, like you're just one of those guys or anybody who's not American you're just rooting against. But like other than that, it's like you're not an MMA fan if you're like, I don't really like Shavkat. Like, come on. Or you're just one of those guys who just like wants to root against all the like,
hipster takes.
Yeah, exactly. But like I like Shavkat a lot. I'm a big fan. But I will say, man, like this kind of, I mean, shit, there's a couple fights like this, like the Aljo fight, like the, what was the other one where I was mentioning that with? Oh, the Thimba, like Thimba and Aljo. I feel like Ian's kind of got a little bit of that where people don't like Aljo or they don't like Ian Gary. So they're like, oh, he sucks. It's like, dude, come on, bro. He's 15-0. He's got into the cage 15 times and he won 15 times. Some of those fights were close. I bet Jeff Neal in that fight. That was a close fight. But, I did think the commentary, like, Jesus, the glaze, doing tricks on that thing. But still, he probably was the deserved winner. It was a close fight. And
it's like a Bo Nickel fight.
Yeah, like, dear God. He's like, wow, look at the feints. High-level feints here. It's like freaking chill, bro. But anyways, other than that, though, typically it's the opposite. Like, people are really underestimating Gary. They're acting like, first of all, man, even if you hate Gary, you got to give him respect because ain't nobody else in the division was taking this fight. And that hyperbole gets thrown around a lot, but this was a genuine, like when Dana said, yo, this was the only guy, he was not exaggerating, guys. There was one guy who was willing to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov, and it was the guy that everybody likes to call like a wimp and, all these other words that I'll try not to, I want you to get this monetized. So, but, people like to play with Ian Gary and disrespect him. And hey, I've made my jokes. Some of the times it's funny, but at the end of the day, man, this guy's a great fighter and he's a dog. And we've even seen him like he's been hurt a couple times. You can't say he's not about that life. He's been dropped. He's been hurt. He got back up and proceeded to get right back to whooping that ass. And I mean, Shavkat, the problem is I've said this a couple times this week, and he does fight like a guy who's 18-0 with 18 finishes. He's walking dudes down, chin up here. Not only do I not respect your power, but I also want to watch these punches hit your chin. That's what my old boxing coach would tell me, like, stop watching your work. Just trust your work. You don't need to watch every punch land. And that's what Shavkat's looking over his punches like, I want to watch the pain on your face as I knock you. Like, he's watching all his punches. His chin is literally up here when he's throwing punches. Ian Gary does sometimes do a similar. Sometimes his chin gets a little up there too, but not as bad as Shavkat. That is a flaw that both of them have to an extent, but Shavkat he's bad about that, honestly. It's because the dude does have a rock solid granite chin. He's been hurt, he's been wobbled, he's even been dropped, but Dude recovers well, and he's clearly about that life, tough as hell. Man, but this line though, man, it's like when you got a guy who's not moving his head, who fights like that, whose head is on a silver platter, who's never even been 3 rounds, and this is 5. His opponent's gone 3 rounds. He's gone 5 rounds. He's won minutes. He's won close decisions. He's been the nail. I don't know, man. Like, I like those odds. So yeah, it's funny because I just realized you had the Volkov sub, but I think we might be on a similar page here because I have the Gary decision only bet. And yeah, I think if this fight goes 5 rounds, you're gonna tell me that plus 210, you can still get that on BetMGM, for Gary to win a decision. If it goes to decision, you're gonna give me two or plus 210 on it to go Gary's way. The guy who's went 3, the guy who's went 5. I don't know. I gun to my head, I say Shavkat finds a sub, but if this goes 5, man, I will not be shocked if we get an upset here. And Shavkat might be the first with the funky hat. Actually, no, we had the Almabayev took a loss for the funky hats. But
funky hats are normally plus EV, but they're not invincible, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. But you can take it away. I think Shavkat, gun to my head, I think he wins. I like the decision only, and I do think the line's wide. But I will pick Shavkat. No major hot take.
Yeah, man. As far as I see it, I agree with your take. Like the way to play Ian Gary in this spot is probably to take the decision only market. You can get, plus 180 and above on that kind of look. And when you look at this matchup, like I don't think that a fight that ends inside the distance favors Ian Gary here. I don't think his finishing instincts are as strong as Shavkat's. If you look at his record, like that bears out, right? How many fights has he had somebody hurt? Has he had somebody in a compromised position? I mean, MVP, like no reason he shouldn't have submitted that guy. I mean, he had him in a very compromised position early when they were both dry. So for me, that's a source of frustration with Ian Gary. But in terms of the skill, it's clearly there, right? The biggest concern I have for Ian coming out of his last fight is the fact that, like Shavkat, like you mentioned, he hangs his chin in the air, right? The confidence, is a two-way street because, Ian Gary was out there getting clipped by MVP. And I thought that showed he has a tremendous chin. Kevin Holland also has a tremendous chin, which is why he was able to take bombs from MVP. But MVP hurts people when he hits them, right? He lands with a lot of impact and authority. And I even thought Gary took the shots a little bit better than Kevin, all things being equal. And he has the wrestling to mix it up a little bit better too. But I think that Shavkat, the sub line being way lower than the KO, I'm not really sure I agree with. I know he said he submitted Ian before. I think he could submit Ian again, but I just think of like Ian's biggest vulnerability is him getting hurt. Maybe Shavkat club and sub, I could see that as well. But like that is how I see Ian losing this fight. It's like he gets clipped and then he gets hurt and gets finished, Other than that, though, I do think he can compete if the fight stays on the feet for minutes. Like, if you just look at how these two guys compete, Shavkat, a lot of big moments, spinning kicks, crazy high volume offense, when he sees somebody hurt. But other than that, like he tends to stay within himself, look for trips, look to get people into the clinch. From the clinch, he's a monster. And I think that if he's able to get Ian in the clinch, like it's going to be a very long night at the office. Ian's got a big body. That's a big target. And I think that Shavkat will probably rip him apart if they're in an in close quarters fight. But at distance, when Ian Gary's using his footwork and his movement, he can win that fight. When they post the sparring footage of these two guys, what you see is Ian Gary moving around Shavkat, and Shavkat's just a touch slower. He's a touch behind in the striking. It's not to say he's not the more powerful guy, the more dangerous guy. I'd give him both of those credits, but who's the guy who's a little bit slicker and a little bit faster? I do think that's Ian Gary. So the more dangerous guy, the more manly man. If you ran into one of these guys in an alley, I think you would much prefer if it was Ian Gary, right? You maybe work something out. You end it by laughing, having beers, shaking hands. Shavkat's going to come home with somebody's head in their hands. Like, he's that kind of guy. But, over 5 rounds, we don't know what his cardio is going to look like. I suspect it'll be good. but over 3 rounds, he's looked very solid, right? That's about it. That's what I could say for him. He's had a couple fights that were within the margins, right? That Jeff Neal fight, I would say, is the number one example that comes to mind. And he closed the show there. He did exactly what he's done to everybody else, finished the job before the time limit ran out. But that was a fight that was very competitive. And I honestly thought Ian did a cleaner job against Jeff using his footwork and just keeping it boring, right? Jeff's corner was frustrated. They didn't want to see that from him, but it just was what it was, right? Ian skirts off on an angle, touch, go, touch, go. And then the fight was over. And I think that when you've got a 0 behind your name, that kind of strategy, nobody will be saying, oh, Ian Gary just ran away all night. If he wins the fight, they'll just have to give him his respect at that point. So for me, Shavkat early or Ian, in a close decision. That's the way I see this one. So I like the Shavkat finish if that's your angle on him, but I don't really, know why he would be a huge favorite if the fight did go the distance. That's the way I see that one, man. And last but not least, this is a fight that I like to end violently. Alexandre, the Cannibal Pantoja, taking on Kai Asakura. And Kai Asakura has a chance to become a UFC superstar overnight. It's not going to be easy. He's got a big challenge in front of him, but when you look, styles make fights. And this is once again a style where I could see a path to victory pretty clearly for the underdog. Pantoja's never been stopped with strikes. So you can't say it's an easy path to victory. It's clearly going to be a difficult path to victory. But Kai Asakura, what has he shown us? He's got power. He's got clear power in his hands, whether that's breaking people's faces or whether that is going out there, getting TKOs, finding ways to track people down with the knees, with the punches. The guy just has a way of hurting people. So when I look at this fight, Pantoja leads out with his chin, talking about Gary and Rakhmonov leave their chin out. Pantoja brings his whole head forward, starts swinging everything crazy. Like the guy knows that when he comes after people, they get scared, they panic, they make mistakes, they show their back. And those are kind of things that he capitalizes on, right? But when you look at this kind of matchup, like Kai Asakura, the one thing he does really well is retreat and throw back with power as he's moving backwards, right? Because a lot of guys try and pressure him. If you just watch his fights in the ring over in Ryzen, he's constantly moving backwards. He's doing backward circles, but it's because he's trying to line up his footwork to land with impact when guys come in. And that's why he's breaking faces. That's why he's having these impacts. And you see him use counter knees. You see him use uppercuts occasionally, but most of it is hooks or straight shots. He likes to work off of kind of like the John Jones mold, right? Single shot, high variance. It's not going to be a ton of combination work from Asakura. It's one powerful shot, reposition, set up something new, and then try and get you guessing again, whether it's with the straight shots or the hooks. So I think that he's going to have some opportunities to land and land with big power early, but I also don't think he's cut out for 5 rounds personally, like Shavkat, right? He needs to prove he could do 5 rounds, but you leave it open to the possibility. I leave it open to the possibility with Asakura as well. But what is hard to do is move backwards, retreating, and continue to keep your cardio. You know what I'm saying? It's very hard to manage that. So I think he's going to spend a lot of energy power punching and retreating. And if he doesn't get him out of there, if he doesn't hurt him, I think Pantoja is going to have opportunities to take the back, to open up with his grappling offense. And whether that's from fatigue from Asakura or simply a levels gap for the Pantoja side, I think this fight is much more likely to end inside the distance, really no matter who wins it, than the average Pantoja fight. How do you feel about this one, Cody? Fun main event here.
Hey, good luck, little bro. Wick in the chin. No, I'm kidding, Wick. Hey, respect, little bro. I'm all the way down for that, buddy. But anyways, main event, man. Come by anytime, man. Just map search Takedown Nation, King George, Virginia. Anyways, Pantoja, Asakura, great main event. I'm super excited for it. I'm high on Pantoja, man. Pantoja's my guy. 9-0 against the top 10. Honestly, one of the most slept on champions we've potentially ever seen. I mean, he's not even top 10 pound for pound right now, and he's 9-0 against the top 10. They're having to bring people in. They're having to scrape this guy from Japan. Dana doesn't want to do that. They don't they don't want to freaking. I mean, of course they want a guy to lead the charge from Japan, but you know, do they love the thought of somebody coming in and their debut in the UFC showing that this guy over in Ryzen was low key the best guy in the world? Probably not, but they're desperate in the flyweight division right now. Why are they desperate? Oh, because Pantoja cleared out the division. Sorry, I just can't help but read these messages in the chat at the same time.
I know you've got a challenger, brother. You got a challenger.
I thought this was this one guy who comes in my chat all the time, but it's really just a troll. He's like, I'm going to triangle you in 10 seconds. I'm like, good luck, buddy. There's not a man on earth who's triangling me in 10 seconds. But anyways, yeah, Pantoja's a freaking problem, man. Like, he's dude, he's so well-rounded. Good wrestling, and I can trust him to go out there and shoot. Good jiu-jitsu, good hands, power, has the durability, has the chin, has that dog in him. Like, you see him get tired, and he's like, okay, well, time to go into fucking alpha Giga Chad mode and just put my freaking chin down and start swinging them bombs. Yo, there's some idiots out there who have the audacity to say, cute, but no, there's some idiots out there who have the audacity to say Pantoja is boring. I'm like, dear God, open your eyes, bro. Like, what fights are you watching? Has he even had one boring fight? Even the decisions, they're not boring. You just don't like MMA, bro. Go watch boxing or something. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't think every single one of Pantoja's fights has been exciting, you simply are not an MMA enjoyer. Go watch Glory Kickboxing. I've never seen a Pantoja fight that wasn't exciting. Even the decisions where he's using his wrestling, he's still out there hunting subs. While they're on the feet, he's throwing bombs. I mean, I don't know, man. I think Pantoja is seriously still somehow to this day slept on. I think he's going to take Asakura down. I've seen much lower level grapplers take Asakura. He's fought good guys. Don't get me wrong. Ryzen's got killers out there. They're not Pantoja, though. Pantoja's built different. I actually put a post up, O'Malley versus Pantoja, and people are like, oh, O'Malley smokes him. And don't get me wrong, much bigger guy, could definitely knock him out. But like, it never ceased to amaze me how slept on to this day Pantoja is. He has been cashing bets fight after fight after fight with me. And I'm just going to keep betting him until the wheels fall off. There's a couple guys like that on this card, but none more than him. Pantoja's up there for me, bro. I bet him on both Royval fights and both Moreno fights. I bet him against Kopp. I bet against Kai Asakura. Kai Kara-France. That might be it. But I'm like, I've been betting and winning on Pantoja. And honestly, this is going to be one of those where I'm just going to bet Pantoja until the wheels fall off. Because, yes, I get buy high or buy low, sell high. 100% great advice to give people. But sometimes when a guy's just been a Brinks truck for you, you just continue backing that thing up into your driveway until the wheels fall off. So give me Pantoja via sub, middle rounds, probably 2-3. I just think this is a levels fight. I like Asakura. I know what the UFC is trying to do. They're like, screw it. We don't trust you to go into the deep waters of 125 and like beat the Royvals and the Morenos. Not saying he couldn't. He could. But rather than risk that, let's just throw him in there. Maybe he's the guy to crack the chin. It's still a cage fight, and Asakura has big power. Pantoja gets hit. Maybe Asakura finds the chin. If he does, we got this global superstar, well, at least international superstar who could become global, who's got all these subscribers on YouTube, who, has this huge Instagram following. This is a win-win. The UFC either proves that they're the big dog in town yet again for the 100th time, or they get a new superstar for this market that they're trying to tap into. Much smart matchmaking. Everybody's like, I don't know what they're thinking. What do you mean? I know exactly what they're thinking. It's a win-win. And what's the alternative? Fucking Moreno again? Dear God, stab my eyes out with a fork. And I love Moreno. I'm good, bro. I'm good. We need some new blood. Thank you to the UFC for making this fight. It's a good fight. Pantoja.
You ready for this craziness too? I don't think most people realize this, right? But this guy, Hiro Masa Ogukibo, okay? He's the last guy to beat Kai Asakura, and Kai Asakura has just had a problem with rematches, right? He beat this guy, then he lost to him in the rematch. That's been the problem throughout his career. He beats a guy, fights him again, loses via knockout. It's just been the story of his life, right? But if you look at this Okibu guy, excuse my pronunciation, I'm trying my best here. It is late for both of us. But what you see is that he actually defeated on The Ultimate Fighter in 2016, one Alexandre Pantoja. What a small world this MMA game is. And Hiro Masa is sitting at home like, yeah, these two bums fighting for my belt. You know, he's feeling real good this weekend. But if you look back, man, I say to myself, yo, we got a guy in Pantoja. He's clearly a world-class grappler, and it's going to be like rubber meets the road time for Kai Asakura's takedown defense, how his game translates in the cage. We're not in the ring anymore, right? And I told you guys, I saw some of these transitions. People are like stepping on the ropes, lifting up, down. It's a weird game, right? It's like way different than a very fixed object in the cage that you could run somebody into, have a barrier that they can't really go back from. So it's like, I think that that's going to benefit Pantoja, to tell you the truth, but big space, right? It's a big
Meanwhile,
cage. Asakura, good footwork. So in the early going, when he's fresh, when the footwork is moving, he's going to look good, I think. It's just that as time goes on, navigating that big space, I think it's going to get harder for him. For me, the things that I'm leaning towards the fight not to go the distance there. And, you know, either Asakura by knockout or Pantoja via submission. That's the way I see it. Maybe it's the square take. It's the way I see it, though. So I'll always just tell you guys my honest opinion. God bless you all. I hope that you guys had a fun time breaking it down. I know I had a blast on my end. Thank you to Cody for the time. My man just did a back-to-back absolute gunner stream right now. So what a soldier. Get your rest, my brother. You certainly deserve it. But first, tell the people where they can find you and all the great work you're doing. By the way, guys, it's all linked down below.
Yeah, I literally taught kids class, did the open mat, got home, took a shower, got out. Literally 2 minutes later, I was streaming for 2.5 hours. Had 10 minutes between, and then with you. So it's been a long one, but it's been fun. I'm really looking forward to these fights, man. Yeah, I'm going to be live tomorrow just watching the fights. So check me out over there. We did do an episode of Wager Wars last night. Or I mean tonight. Damn, these nights. It's been a lot of content.
And technically it was last night now at 2:15, so you got it.
Okay, yeah. We did do that. So check that out on my channel, Cody MMA, Twitter and YouTube, Cody MMA. And then I did do a little short, like 15-minute video earlier, just going over all my bets because there's like 9 of them, maybe 10. A couple more spots I'm looking at, but I'll tweet it out if I play anything else. A lot of action on this card. And then Liam did an episode against Best Fight Picks, Dan Levy, 2 OGs. It was a great episode. That was Wednesday night. So if you go to my channel, you go to the live tab, you can check tonight's episode and Wednesday's episode with your boy Liam here and Best Fight Picks. Obviously, if you don't know how the show goes, they put their best fights on every card or best bets on every single fight. And then obviously Saturday, we'll see who wins. We do the leaderboard. We have the rankings. It's a fun time. Liam stepped up on short notice for the second time, so I appreciate that. So, yeah, check that out. If you want to check out any of the content, I'd recommend Wager Wars. It's my favorite piece of my content. If you want to see all my bets, just go to the last video and you can see like all my little condensed bets into one because I do have a lot of action on this card, man. And for the record, I also do like that main event doesn't go to decision. I think Pantoja finishes him, or I think Asakura finishes him if he does win. Obviously, I'm confident on the Pantoja side, but I don't think that fight goes 25. But anyway, it's a great card, man. I appreciate you having me. We'll do it again. Yeah, man. Appreciate y'all in the chat. You guys were fun, even the guy telling me he's gonna like beat me up or something. Nah, it's all good. All love, man. You do have a sharp chat. Lot of cool guys in the chat, man. Shout out to you guys sticking with us for 2 hours. I know it's late for a lot of y'all as well. Till next time, man. I appreciate you.
And shout out to the replay gang. I know there'll be plenty of y'all in there. People that are normally in the sharpest chat in the game. We went late today, so thank you all for the support. Whether you're here live, whether you come for the replay, we appreciate the support nonetheless. Cody, we really appreciate having you on the show, my man. We switched the host chairs from Wager Wars till today, but it's a pleasure collaborating with you, my man. Always my pleasure anytime. If you want to run some content And guys, make sure you show love and support to the guests. That's an easy way to show love to the show. The other easy ways, get subscribed to the channel if you're not already. Drop a like on the video and come back next time. We're having all the same fun again. One more UFC event for 2024. Let's try and finish strong. God bless you all. Good luck with your bets, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.